Chapter 1797. Too small for two, this person is actually an overgod. He really hit it well. If he did not speak out and draw my attention, I probably still would not know that there was a second overgod in this hall, Xiando thought. Reflexively, he glanced at Jian Qin, who sat on the patriarch's throne, and his expression became rather strange. He mumbled to himself, looking at it like this, the hidden overgod clearly wants to dominate the entire Dong'an province. The Dong'an province is too small for two overgods to reign supreme. Looks like there'll be a show soon. However, the patriarch of the Tianyuan clan is very strong. I heard from the overgods who have returned from God King Duanmu's dwelling that the patriarch of the Tianyuan clan, Jian Qin, had slain two early overgods in the dwelling. Even Yang Kai feared him slightly. At the same time, the patriarch has some ties with the overgods from the 5 great provincial cities. A light flickered through Xiando's eyes. Although he had not entered God King Duanmu's dwelling, quite a few overgods from the royal city had, so he naturally knew about the events that had transpired in there. As the commander of the royal divine army whose cultivation had reached overgod, it was naturally nothing difficult for him to learn about what had happened from the other overgods. Seeing Weiner Yen object to Jian Qin so publicly, all the gods gathered in the hall looked towards him as well. Since Weiner Yen had maintained an extremely low profile before and concealed his cultivation, he did not draw any attention in the hall earlier. Now that he had exposed himself, many people recognized him immediately. It's Weiner Yen. He was once the greatest prodigy of the province. He went from being a mortal to a god in just a few dozen millennia before spending 5,000 years to go from an early god to mid-god. Weiner Yan's talent is very impressive. At the very least, in our Dong'an province, no one could rival him. It's just that he went traveling 10,000 years ago. I never thought he would return today. Weiner Yen sure is bold to speak out against the patriarch of the Tianyuan clans so publicly. Can't he see that not only have people from 4 of the 5 great provinces come, even the commander of the Royal Divine Army, Sir Xiando, has come to congratulate the patriarch as well. After recognizing Weiner Yen, a low hum of discussion immediately appeared in the hall. The seated gods all began to discuss with each other quietly. The reason behind their discussions was to provide Jian Qin with some information regarding Weiner Yen indirectly or to use the opportunity to curry up to Jian Qin directly. Jian Qin also looked towards Weiner Yen. He had been expected this because he knew that a second overgod had appeared in the provincial city, and as soon as he had entered the hall, Jian Qin discovered him. This was not because Jian Qin had seen through Weiner Yen before Xiando. Rather, he had always been paying attention to the second overgod in the provincial city. On the other hand, Xiando never paid too much attention to anyone else in the hall. He did not even properly look at them, so naturally, Xiando failed to discover the hidden Weiner Yen. Weiner Yan's method of disguise was nothing special. It was difficult for those below overgod to tell his strength, but overgods would find out once they paid attention to him. Brother, congratulations on becoming an overgod. From today onwards, our divine kingdom of Pingtian has gained another peak expert. Jian Qin stood up and clasped his fist towards Weiner Yen. He smiled plainly, without minding Weiner Yan's words too much. What? Overgod? Weiner Yen has become an overgod. How is that possible? In just 10,000 years, Weiner Yen has gone from being a mid-god to an overgod. The Weiner clan has actually given birth to an overgod. Everyone was immediately shocked when they heard Jian Qin's words. Disbelief filled all their eyes. Weiner Yen could not help but reveal a sliver of complacency when he saw the shocked faces of the gods around him. He walked forward slowly and stood in the center of the hall. He clasped his fist towards Jian Qin. I am Weiner Yen, and I also congratulate the patriarch of the Tianyuan clan on becoming the second overgod of our Dong'an province. With the existence of the patriarch, my Dong'an province has now become the greatest province in the divine kingdom of Pingtian, both in name and reality. Weiner Yen labeled Jian Qin as the second overgod of the Dong'an province to declare to everyone that he was the first one. He spoke even more firmly towards the end, directly referring to the Dong'an province as his. Without a doubt, he was declaring to Jian Qin that he owned the Dong'an province. The gods gathered here all held their breaths. All of them were knowledgeable and cunning, so they could naturally tell what Weiner Yen was hinting at. Their faces became rather strange, and there was some eagerness as well. They all understood that the patriarch of the Tianyuan clan and Weiner Yen would probably engage in a fierce struggle soon. At this moment, Weiner Yen clasped his fist towards Xian Dou, who watched on from one side. He immediately dismissed any snobbishness and said sincerely, "In a few days, our Weiner clan will be holding a celebration as well. We will also be setting down some rules for the Dong'an province. I do hope that Senior Xian Dou can grant me the honor and come to visit our Weiner clan." Xian Dou clasped his hands back at Weiner Yen and said, "Once the founding ceremony of the Tianyuan clan comes to an end, I must hurry back to the royal city for new orders. I may not be able to make your clan's celebration." Xian Dou did not care about the Weiner clan's celebration at all. The divine kingdom of Pingtian had gained an overgod, holding great significance for the kingdom. Basically, they would receive great gifts from the divine king every time this happened, but there was no need for him, the commander of the royal divine army and a late overgod, to visit personally. Normally, a late god emissary would be enough. The Tianyuan clan was an exception. Weiner Yan's face changed slightly. He could naturally tell what Xian Dou was trying to say. His Weiner clan did not possess the right to invite Xian Dou. Xian Dou had come visiting with rich gifts for the Tianyuan clan's founding ceremony, yet he was unwilling to even grant him the honor of attending his Weiner clan's celebration at all. Without a single doubt, it meant that his Weiner clan was not as great as the newly founded Tianyuan clan in Xian Dou's eyes. Weiner Yan's face darkened slightly. Chapter 1798, The Earth Spirit Sect. Looks like the Weiner clan has not caught Sir Xian Dou's eye, even when they've gained an overgod, Weiner Yen. However, it seems like Sir Xian Dou has personally come to visit the Tianyuan clan due to the orders of His Majesty. Hence, it'll be more correct to say that Weiner Yen has not caught the eye of the Divine King. Xian Dou's behavior caused many of the gods currently gathered in the hall to change their minds slightly. Their gazes towards Jian Chen underwent some minute changes as well. This was because they had realized that the provincial city would probably fall under the Tianyuan clan's control. Even though that was the case, the gods from the various clans still did not dare to show any disrespect towards the Weiner clan. After all, the Weiner clan was an organization with an overgod now. Although Weiner Yen felt like Xian Dou's behavior had embarrassed him, the latter was a late overgod, so Weiner Yen could do nothing about it. Then he looked towards Jian Chen and clasped his fist. "In a few days, our Weiner clan will hold a celebration and formally announce that we are now a clan with an overgod to the entire divine kingdom of Pingtian. At the same time, we will lead the province in all matters and pass down some regulations. I hope the patriarch of the Tianyuan clan will grant me the honor of coming." Weiner Yan's voice was assertive. Even though he knew that the patriarch of the Tianyuan clan was also an overgod, he showed no fear at all, even when he mentioned how he wanted to lead the entire province. Jian Chen's face did not change at all. He sat on the patriarch's throne without moving at all and looked at Weiner Yen from above. He said plainly, "It would be rude for me to not. You have granted me the honor of you attending our founding ceremony today, so I will naturally attend your celebration." Weiner Yen frowned when he heard that. He was not in a good mood. The patriarch of the Tianyuan clan had basically said that he was only willing to take part in the Weiner clan celebration because Weiner Yen had come to his founding ceremony. If Weiner Yen had not come to the founding ceremony, the patriarch of the Tianyuan clan would probably not attend his Weiner clan celebration. What Weiner Yen found to be even more unacceptable was how the patriarch actually sat high up on the throne and spoke to him while looking down. His face had become rather cold. At this moment, Jian Chen continued, "Though about the province, I think it's best to keep it as it is right now. There's completely no need for any extra regulations. Too many regulations will affect the development of the province." All the gods present secretly beamed inside when they heard that. They were not celebrating the fact that Jian Chen wanted to keep the Dong'an province as it was right now. Instead, they were happy that the patriarch of the Tianyuan clan had already begun disagreeing with Weiner Yen. Many of them behaved extremely obediently because they were overgods, but they felt the exact opposite inside. As a result, They were really eager to see the overgods of the Tian Yuan clan and the Weiner clan turn on each other. They hoped it would get to the point where both overgods suffered heavy injuries. Xiando also stood to one side with his crossed arm. He said nothing. However, he felt very perplexed over what would happen as well. Two overgods had actually appeared in a single provincial city. It was going to be lively. Weiner Yan's face sank when he heard Jian Chen's words. His gaze gradually turned into a glare, and he said coldly, "Are you saying that you want to oppose my Weiner clan? Do you also think that my Weiner clan does not have the right to rule over the Dong'an province?" Suddenly, Weiner Yan took out a yellow token. He held the token high in the air and called out, "May I ask if my Weiner clan has the right now?" A protector's token from the Earth Spirit sect. Xiando's face changed suddenly when he saw the token, and he cried out. He was extremely shocked. That's right, it's from the Earth Spirit sect. Weiner Yan became very complacent. He could not help but smile arrogantly. The expressions of the gods present all changed slightly when they heard the words, Earth Spirit sect. They all looked towards Weiner Yan in disbelief. "Commander Xian, may I ask about the Earth Spirit sect?" Jian Chen asked Xiando secretly. He had only come to the Dong'an province for so long, so he naturally had no idea about the Earth Spirit sect. A sliver of surprise appeared on Xiando's face when he heard Jian Chen's question. He had probably never considered that Jian Chen would not have heard of the Earth Spirit sect despite being an overgod. However, Xiando still explained the matter to Jian Chen patiently. The Earth Spirit sect is one of the two most powerful sects in the Heavenly Moon Empire. They're extremely powerful, and they possess 5 or 6 god kings. They also have far more overgods than our divine kingdom of Pingtian. I never thought that this Weiner Yan would be a protector from the Earth Spirit sect. He possesses a certain level of status in the Earth Spirit sect. As such, matters will become difficult now, Jian Chen. Xiando explained Weiner Yan's identity rather solemnly. Although Weiner Yan was only an early overgod, the sect behind him was not an existence that could be provoked. The Heavenly Moon Empire? The Earth Spirit sect? Looks like I'll need to spend some time to understand the cloud plane properly, thought Jian Chen. He realized that his understanding of the cloud plane was simply too limited. Patriarch, Commander Xiando, may I ask if there's anything you want to say? Weiner Yan held the protector's token as he spoke to Jian Chen and Xiando arrogantly. Xiando furrowed his brows. He clearly feared Weiner Yan's identity slightly. It was not good news for the Divine Kingdom if he offended a protector of the Earth Spirit sect. This was because the Earth Spirit sect was just too powerful. Even with the Heavenly Moon Empire in perspective, they were one of the 2 most powerful sections. Even the imperial family of the Heavenly Moon Empire feared the 2 sects slightly. Weiner Yan, it's the same as I've said before. It's best if we keep the Dong'an province as it is right now, said Jian Chen. He did not show any fear. He had already founded his own clan in the Dong'an province, so he naturally could not let an early overgod dominate him. Although he was not interested in controlling the provincial city, he could not remain in the provincial city forever. He would leave someday. As a result, he had to ensure that the Tian Yuan clan possessed a stable position in the Dong'an province before his departure. If that's the case, there's no need for your Tian Yuan clan to remain in the provincial city. Piss off, Weiner Yan became angered. With that, he charged towards Jian Chen with lightning speed. He clenched his right hand into a fist and directly threw it at Jian Chen's face. A gleam of cold light flickered through Jian Chen's eyes. He suddenly stood up and stood in front of Shangguan Moor. Forming a sword with his fingers, he immediately produced a dazzling streak of light to receive Weiner Yan's punch. Chapter 1799. Fighting Weiner Yan. Boom. As the sword chi from the tip of Jian Chen's fingers collided with Weiner Yan's fist, a deafening boom rang out. However, Weiner Yan's fist was extremely tough. A powerful layer of laws surrounded it, and he directly used the toughness of his body to take on Jian Chen's sword chi. Jian Chen's sword chi immediately shattered after striking Weiner Yan's fist. It shot into the surroundings as countless tiny strands. Weiner Yan shuddered, and he took a few steps back uncontrollably. A mark had appeared on his fist and blood flowed from there. At the same time, defensive formations immediately appeared in the discussion hall to stop the shockwaves from the conflict. However, Mo Ling and Ando Fu had cast down all of these formations, so their power was limited. They were more than enough to stop the attacks of gods, but they were extremely fragile before the shockwaves from the attacks of overgods. As soon as the formations appeared, the shockwaves from Jian Chen and Weiner Yan's clash shattered them to pieces. As the shockwaves expanded, all the gods in the hall suffered as a result. Many of their expressions changed, and they staggered backwards from the powerful shockwaves. Blood dripped from the corner of a few people's mouths as they paled, clearly slightly injured now. Only the 3 late gods were able to remain where they were with their powerful cultivation, but it had forced them to use everything they possessed. The discussion hall shook violently. Even though the discussion hall had been constructed from very tough material, it was unable to stand up to the shockwaves from overgods without the protection of powerful formations. With a deep rumble, the grand hall directly collapsed, reduced to ruins. Dust was kicked into the air. Jian Chen remained before the patriarch's throne. At that moment, only the part of the structure behind the throne remained fine, while Shangguan Mu'er, who he guarded, was naturally fine as well. However, the faces of both Jian Chen and Shangguan Mu'er had become extremely sunken now. Today was the day when the Tianyuan clan was holding their founding ceremony. It was a sacred and solemn day, yet the overgod from the Weiner clan actually wanted to start fighting without taking the surroundings into account, destroying the discussion hall of the Tianyuan clan. His actions were basically a slap to the Tianyuan clan's face. The gods all looked at the ruins of the building and could not help but glance at each other. On such an important day, someone had actually taken apart the discussion hall of the Tianyuan clan. They all realized that the Tianyuan clan and Weiner clan had probably fallen out. Mu'er, leave first. Be careful, Jian Chen said to Shangguan Mu'er gently. However, his face was extremely sunken, and his gaze was as sharp as swords as a powerful killing intent flashed through his eyes. He stared at the fearless Weiner Yan. Be careful too, Shangguan Mu'er said gently from behind Jian Chen before leaving slowly. She knew that Jian Chen had become angered. Weiner Yan gradually became stern. He had been expecting this before, so he did not take everything to heart. Even though Jian Chen was also an overgod, he treated him like nothing because he was a protector of the Earth Spirit sect. Let alone Xiando, even if the Divine King wanted to touch him, he would have to consider the consequences properly. As a result, he did not need to fear the Tianyuan clan at all thanks to the great background he possessed. However, his heart suddenly jumped when he saw the patriarch's sharp glare that was filled with killing intent. He sensed an ill omen and immediately raised his guard secretly. Suddenly, Jian Chen surged into the sky. Powerful and sharp sword chi permeated his surroundings, shining with bright, white light. He seemed to have become a huge sword as he shot away from the city. Weiner Yan, I will be waiting for you outside the city. Show me just what a protector of the Earth Spirit sect has to be able to act so recklessly in my Tianyuan clan. Jian Chen's voice rang out far and wide. It was audible across the entire city. Weiner Yan could hear the disdain and provocation in Jian Chen's voice. He immediately frowned, and with a cold snort, he followed Jian Chen. 1,000,000 kilometers away from the provincial city, Jian Chen hovered at an altitude of 10,000 kilometers with a sunken face. His white clothes and long hair fluttered in the wind as he stared at Weiner Yan sharply. The presence he gave off was like a sharp sword. It directly plunged into the sky, stirring up the surrounding wind and clouds. Weiner Yan, I will make you understand that my Tianyuan clan is not a place where anyone can act however they like. Even if you're a protector of the Earth Spirit sect, the provincial city is not a place where you can act as you please, Jian Chen said coldly. Weiner Yan hovered in the sky before Jian Chen with his arms crossed. He was fearless as he said coldly, the Dong'an province belongs to my Weiner clan, so it's not up to you to tell me what I can and cannot do in the provincial city. Patriarch of the Tianyuan clan, come at me. Let me see just what you're capable of. Don't make me disappointed. A cold light flickered through Jian Chen's eyes. He took a step in the air, and he covered 1,000 meters just like that. He appeared before Weiner Yan as if he had teleported, extending a finger towards Wainer Yan's forehead. As he extended his finger, an extremely bright streak of light condensed instantly. It radiated with sword chi. The strand of sword chi was clearly much more powerful than the one he had used back in the discussion hall. Jian Chen had only struck out casually to nullify Wainer Yan's attack back in the discussion hall. Only now did he use his true power. You want to kill me right from the start? I'm not that easy to kill, Wainer Yan said coldly. His arms swelled up rapidly as his muscles bulged. They became extremely tough. His hands had become extremely thick and large as well. His fingers were like metal, filled with power as they flickered with a bronze light. He directly slapped at Jian Chen's sword chi. Seeing Wainer Yan's response, Jian Chen twisted his wrist, and the sword chi that shot towards Wainer Yan's forehead immediately stabbed towards his palm. Chapter 1800 Laws of Strength Ding. This time, when Jian Chen's sword chi stabbed Wainer Yan's hand, there was actually the screeching of metal. Wainer Yan's hand had reached an unimaginable level of toughness. Jian Chen's eyes narrowed slightly as he looked at Wainer Yan in surprise. An extremely great force was emitted from Wainer Yan's palm, passing through the sword chi Jian Chen had condensed and directly into his arm. The sword chi immediately dulled. The great force rushed up rapidly and turned his sleeve to tatters. Even he could not help but take a step back from the great force. Laws of strength, Jian Chen murmured as a gleam of light flashed through his eyes. The laws of strength represented the strength of the world. Those who had comprehended this law possessed a body so tough that it had reached an unbelievable level. Most importantly, the laws of strength were also known to be one of the most offensive laws. This was because strength represented an offense, pure offense. Wainer Yan glanced at his huge hand that flickered with bronze light. He saw a deep wound on his powerful hand. Although he had managed to stop Jian Chen's sword chi with his body, his hand was still injured. Wainer Yan was secretly astonished by the wound. He did not use his full strength in the discussion hall before, so it was very natural for the sword chi to injure him earlier. However, he had already unleashed his full strength now. He had even used the battle skill he had learnt from the Earth Spirit sect, which strengthened his hand. Yet, it was still not enough to stop Jian Chen's sword chi. The unique battle skill he had learnt from the Earth Spirit sect was created especially for those who had comprehended the laws of strength. Once they used the battle skill, the toughness of their bodies would be raised to a whole, new, unimaginable level. They could basically be called human weapons. It was rare for anyone at the same level to be their opponent, and they would even be able to kill people at higher cultivation levels. Of course, that was given that they did not encounter any other prodigies with terrifying strength as well. I've underestimated the patriarch of the Tian Yuan clan. He's stronger than I initially thought. Wainer Yan became stern. From the clash before, he could tell that he was slightly weaker than Jian Chen. In the distance, Xian Do hovered in the air as he watched the two of them clash. He was secretly amazed. Both Wainer Yan and Jian Chen possess extraordinary strength. Most importantly, the laws that they've comprehended are very powerful. No wonder Wainer Yan managed to become a protector of the Earth Spirit sect. It's all because of the laws of strength he has comprehended. However, Wainer Yan is still a little weaker than Jian Chen. Wainer Yan's comprehension of laws is only at early overgod, while Jian Chen's comprehension has probably reached mid-overgod. However, Jian Chen's personal cultivation seems to be weaker. He hasn't managed to reach a balance with the laws he has comprehended. He's probably only a god right now. At the same time, figures flickered in the distance. The gods had all left the provincial city and hurried over here as soon as possible. They wanted to witness the battle between two overgods. None of them dared to stand as close to the battle as Xian Do. Instead, they stood very far away at a place where they believed to be safe enough. Grant me strength. Suddenly, Wainer Yan bellowed out. His body began to swell at a visible rate. In just a single moment, he went from being less than 2 meters tall to being a 10-meter-tall giant. As his body swelled, his clothes expanded as well, so even though they were wrapped around him tightly, they still managed to cover his tough, burly body. Wainer Yan's skin became bronze after transformation. He was filled with great strength. 5-finger suppression. Weiner Yen called out. The 5 fingers on his right hand seemed to have become mountains as they fell towards Jian Chen with crushing might. Wherever they passed by, space would ripple. A shockingly cold light flickered through Jian Chen's eyes. He wielded his sword qi as he charged towards Weiner Yan's mountainous fingers with surging might. Boom! With a great rumble, Jian Chen's sword qi almost sliced off one of Weiner Yan's fingers. Currently, Weiner Yan's 4 other fingers surrounded Jian Chen, while his sword qi had dispersed after cutting into Weiner Yan's finger. Weiner Yan's face remained the same as if he did not feel pain at all. The 4 other fingers locked down on Jian Chen. Every single one of them was extremely thick, making them seem like 4 pillars that sealed off all the directions Jian Chen could escape in. Daluo sword. Jian Chen formed a seal, and a golden strand of sword qi immediately condensed above his head. With a flash, the golden sword qi shot towards the 4 fingers with lightning speed. Boom, 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 boom. Immediately, 4 rumbles rang out. The golden sword qi was extremely powerful, tearing through the 4 other fingers like a hot knife through butter. Powerful energy permeated the surroundings, wreaking havoc as a storm. The sea of clouds in the sky had been ripped to pieces. However, the golden sword qi still had not dispersed after chopping off Weiner Yan's 4 other fingers. It continued onwards as a golden streak of light towards Weiner Yan under Jian Chen's control. It moved extremely quickly. Weiner Yan paled slightly. All his fingers were hanging loosely now, and only a flap of skin kept them from falling off. They had run out of power. After transforming, his body had become extremely tough. However, he was still an early overgod after all. Jian Chen's Daluo sword possessed extraordinary power as well, so he was naturally unable to stop it. Weiner Yan clenched his left hand into a fist and directly hurled it out to deal with the incoming sword qi. The Daluo sword had basically run out of power after severing Weiner Yan's 4 fingers. It immediately collapsed from Weiner Yan's punch, scattering as residual sword qi. However, just when Weiner Yan had dispersed the sword qi, another strand of golden sword qi shot over with lightning speed, punching through his chest in just the blink of an eye. Weiner Yan's body trembled violently. Blood directly spurted from his mouth as his face paled. However, he comprehended the laws of strength after all. Not only was his physical strength shocking, but great power also inhabited his body. He was extremely powerful after transforming. Even though he was injured, his battle prowess was not overly affected. Mountains imprint. Weiner Yan bellowed out. He raised his left hand towards the sky, and a mountain immediately appeared. He grabbed it and smashed it towards Jian Chen heavily. As the mountain fell, it rapidly expanded to the point where it could blot out the sun in a single instance. It became a towering piece of rock as it crushed down on Jian Chen. At the same time, the mountain gave off an invisible energy. All the space in the range of the attack froze. Jian Chen felt his body sink as if he had ended up in quicksand. He was unable to dodge the mountainous attack, so he could only take it head-on. Chapter 1801. Obliteration. This Weiner Yan does have some ability, Jian Chen thought. He had come across quite a few early overgods in God King Duanmu's dwelling, but none of them were on the same level as Weiner Yan. It could be said that Weiner Yan was the strongest early overgod he had encountered so far. He was no weaker than Ling Hogong, or even slightly stronger. This was because the battle skills that Weiner Yan possessed all came from the Earth Spirit sect. They were of high grade and possessed extraordinary might. Tai sword technique. Jian Chen formed a hand seal, and a bright, white light surrounded him instantly. He turned into a sword as he shot into the sky with dazzling light. From afar, he seemed like a comet in reverse. He collided with the huge mountain that blotted out the sun with a seemingly unstoppable force. The mountain was no ordinary mountain but something condensed from Weiner Yan's cultivation as an early overgod and his power of laws through a battle technique. It possessed an extremely terrifying might. Boom! Jian Chen directly collided with the colossal mountain, and a visible ripple of energy gushed out, expanding as a ring. Jian Chen was like a sharp sword, directly driving through the bottom of the mountain. He moved linearly through the mountain with lightning speed. In just a short moment he pierced through the entire thing, emerging from the highest point. He was like a miniature sun, shining with dazzling light as he hovered in the air. A tiny crack suddenly appeared on the colossal mountain condensed from Weiner Yan's battle skill. The crack immediately caused a chain reaction. More and more cracks appeared, covering the entire mountain very soon. Boom! In the end, the entire mountain collapsed with a deep rumble. It turned into surging energy that wreaked havoc as a storm, while the mountain itself vanished from the space there. Weiner Yan trembled violently, blood spurted from his mouth and into the sky. He became even paler. He raised his head as he stared at Jianchen in shock. At this moment, Jianchen had seemingly become a sword. He had already readjusted his judgment of Jianchen before, yet Jianchen's strength still managed to surprise him. The patriarch of the Tianyuan clan is actually so powerful. His cultivation level is clearly lackluster, and he only possesses a slight edge in terms of laws. I thought that even if he would emerge victorious in his battle against Weiner Yan, it would be quite difficult, but looking at it now, Weiner Yan is nowhere close to being Jianchen's opponent. He has actually been completely suppressed in their battle. Xian Dou stared at Jianchen in surprise. Clearly, Jianchen's strength had left him taken aback as well. Moreover, he knew that Jianchen had not used his full strength today. This was because he had not used his trump card, which he revealed in God King Duanmu's dwelling back then. That move had allowed him to take the lives of early overgods. Looks like the patriarch of the Tianyuan clan has the upper hand. Weiner Yan has already become heavily injured, while the patriarch of the Tianyuan clan is completely unscathed apart from his tattered sleeve. The patriarch is just too powerful. The patriarch of the Tianyuan clan's strength is probably even greater than the overgods of the 5 great provinces. No wonder they showed him so much respect and even sent important members of their clan to congratulate him. The gods of the provincial city all communicated with each other secretly. They were all amazed as they looked at Jianchen in fear and admiration. A few days before, there was an overgod who fought against Master Chanlong. Could that person be the patriarch of the Tianyuan clan? Suddenly, a spectating god said softly. Everyone present immediately became startled when they heard that, and they all paled soon afterwards. Master Chanlong was a late overgod and a formation master. He possessed extremely great mastery over formations, so many overgod feared him very much. As a result, he was exceedingly famous. If the mysterious expert who fought against Master Chanlong outside the city before was the patriarch of the Tianyuan clan, he would simply be too terrifying. At that time, everyone stared at the figure that seemed smaller than an ant in the distant sky. They all wondered about that. No one paid any attention to Weiner Yan at that moment. Suddenly, Jianchen descended with lightning speed, directly shooting towards Weiner Yan as he shone with dazzling light. Weiner Yan hovered in the air sternly as a giant. Powerful laws of strength condensed in his left hand as he threw it towards Jianchen. With the punch, space rippled. Pure and great power surged through the space, scattering the origin energy there. The punch was immensely powerful, but Jianchen was currently using the Tai sword technique. He was far more powerful than usual. Boom! This time, Weiner Yan's punch was obliterated. Before the powerful sword Qi, not only had he lost his hand, but even the flesh and bone of his entire left arm from his wrist rapidly vanished. It turned into minced meat and shattered bone as they fell from the sky. The affected part reached up to his shoulder. Weiner Yan could not help but grunt from the intense pain. His entire left hand had already vanished. Even though his body had been strengthened, he was still unable to resist Jianchen's attack, so he suffered heavy injuries. Spurt! 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 Jianchen did not give Weiner Yan any time to catch his breath. He directly struck out, and 4 strands of powerful sword Qi pierced through Weiner Yan's body, making him vomit blood. In the end, he kicked Weiner Yan's chest firmly. Weiner Yan collided with the ground heavily. The entire region of earth shook violently, kicking up soil and dust that covered him up. Jianchen landed on the ground and slowly made his way towards the deep pit Weiner Yan's descent caused. He directly looked through the dust in the air, clearly looking at Weiner Yan in the pit. Weiner Yen, is this the right to act arrogantly in my Tianyuan clan you were speaking of? Jian Chen said nonchalantly. His emotionless, icy-cold voice was filled with mockery. Although he had basically used his full strength in the battle against Weiner Yen, even using the Daluo sword and Tai sword technique, he had emerged completely unscathed. Weiner Yen was very powerful. There was barely anyone who could stand against him at the same level of cultivation. However, he was still not enough before Jian Chen. Chapter 1802. Glory of the Tianyuan clan. Weiner Yen leapt out of the pit he created. He had returned to his original size while his body was covered with vicious wounds. He was covered in blood. In particular, the stab wounds on his body created a chilling sight. Although Weiner Yen had been defeated, he did not appear dispirited at all. Instead, he glared at Jian Chen and said coldly, "Patriarch of the Tianyuan clan, don't get cocky too soon. Just because you're able to defeat me this time doesn't represent how powerful you are. Your comprehension of laws was just deeper than mine. If we were at the same level of comprehension, who knows who'll be defeated instead." Weiner Yen continued after pausing for a slight moment. However, I, Weiner Yen, am not a person who does not admit defeat. You win this time, so our Weiner clan will not interfere with the matters of the Dong'an province. We'll let your Tianyuan clan rule in power for now. Once I comprehend the laws of strength to mid-overgod, I'll fight you again. At that time, I'd like to see if you can still defeat me. With that, Weiner Yen left as a blur, directly flying towards the provincial city. Weiner Yen's departure left the surrounding gods amazed. Many people were filled with vigor. A great battle between two overgods had unfolded before them. Although the battle did not last for long, they had benefited greatly from watching on. Most importantly, all of them had understood the patriarch of the Tianyuan clan's strength clearly. I never thought that the patriarch of the Tianyuan clan would be such a powerful overgod. Huoluji has been far too reckless. He almost doomed the clan, thought the strongest expert of the Hua family. At the same time, he was secretly relieved. Fortunately, the patriarch of the Tianyuan clan did not pursue the matter, or his Hua family would have been in great trouble. Huoluji is still held captive in the Tianyuan clan. Whatever, I won't beg for his mercy. His life can be decided by fate. I just hope that the patriarch of the Tianyuan clan won't direct his rage towards our Hua family just because of Huoluji. At the same time, similar thoughts crossed the mind of the late god from the Dong family. He was filled with regret about how the god of his family had offended the patriarch of the Tianyuan clan. I never thought that brother Jian Chen would possess such great mastery over the sword. You really have broadened my horizons. Xian Dou flew over and clasped his fist towards Jian Chen with a smile. You flatter me, Commander Xian. Compared to Commander Xian, my comprehension of the laws of the sword is nothing. Jian Chen clasped his fist back at him and said politely. Xian Dou chuckled aloud. After talking some more with Jian Chen, he said sternly, "Another overgod has appeared in the Dong'an province. I must report this matter to His Majesty immediately." Brother Jian Chen, I will be bidding farewell to you today. If I have the time in the future, I will definitely come to visit you again. Take care, Commander Xian. My Tianyuan clan welcomes you at all times, said Jian Chen. Alright, brother Jian Chen, never look down on Weiner Yen. Although he's not your opponent, the Earth Spirit sect behind him is quite a significant power. They're so powerful that even our divine kingdom are unable to fend them off if we began fighting. Please be careful, brother Jian Chen, said Xian Dou. He was extremely stern. He feared the Earth Spirit sect very much. Jian Chen nodded to express that he understood. Soon afterwards, Xian Dou shot off into the distance with great speed. He only left behind a blur. He vanished into the horizon in a single moment. With Xian Dou's departure, the eager gods in the surroundings finally gained the opportunity to speak. They all spoke to Jian Chen politely and with admiration. Back in the provincial city, Jian Chen returned to the Tianyuan clan and stood before the rubble that used to be the discussion hall. Mo Ling and Ando Fu stood there silently. They would reveal admiration in their gazes towards Jian Chen from time to time. Now, Mo Ling could no longer refer to Jian Chen as a brother like before. Even though Jianchen treated him exactly the same, he lowered himself to a much lesser position. This was because the concept that power was everything had already become deeply rooted in Mo Ling's mind. He was unable to change it. Behind Jianchen were the gods from the other clans in the provincial city. They did not return to their clans. Instead, they chose to return to the Tianyuan clan with Jianchen. They all remained silent as they stared at the ruined discussion hall. Jianchen, are you fine? Shengguan Mu'er walked over from afar. She asked in concern as she stared at Jianchen's tattered sleeve. She did not spectate the previous battle due to her strength. Jianchen finally smiled warmly as he watched Shengguan Mu'er make her way over slowly. He nodded his head gently and said, I'm fine. With that, he turned towards Mo Ling and Ando Fu and said, Brother Mo Ling and Ando Fu, the destroyed discussion hall must be rebuilt as soon as possible. I will be troubling the two of you with this. Yes, Patriarch, Ando Fu and Mo Ling replied together. Patriarch, we are willing to offer up our power and reconstruct the discussion hall with you, said the gods from the other clans behind him. They expressed their sincerity. Jianchen naturally turned down the offer. He did not need outsiders to build his discussion hall. The provincial city returned to its previous peaceful state. It was just as busy and prosperous as before as people flowed in and out of the city everywhere. It seemed exactly the same as before from the surface. However, the structure of power in the city had undergone an overwhelming change. The powerful clans no longer controlled the city. Instead, it had become the world of the Tianyuan clan. The city belonged to the Tianyuan clan. All the clans had to abide by the various orders that the Tianyuan clan passed down. Even though the Weiner clan had given birth to an overgod as well, they kept an extremely low profile just like before. Even though their status was nowhere near as great as the Tianyuan clan, they were also a clan with an overgod, so they possessed extremely great status in the provincial city. No one in the city dared to provoke them. Weiner Yen immediately entered seclusion after his battle against Jianchen. He no longer bothered himself with the matters of the clan. Chapter 1803, The 5 Regions of the Cloud Plain. At this moment, Weiner Yen sat in a room within the Weiner clan as he recovered from his wounds. Even though he had already ingested healing pills, his injuries recovered at an extremely gradual rate. This was because the power of laws of the sword had contaminated all his wounds. If he did not cleanse the wounds of the power first, he would not be able to heal. His laws of strength had granted him an extremely tough body, and it reached an unbelievable level with the amplification of battle skills. It was even enough to rival Jianchen's chaotic body. However, his recovery rate was nowhere near as great as the chaotic bodies. I heard that you were only a god when God King Duanmu's dwelling was opened, patriarch of the Tianyuan clan. It has only been a few short years, yet you've become an overgod, and your comprehension of the laws of the sword have even exceeded my comprehension of the laws of strength, reaching the level of mid-overgods. Looks like you obtained quite the fortune in God King Duanmu's dwelling, or you were hiding your strength on purpose before. Perhaps you broke through to overgod a very long time ago, thought Weiner Yen. He did not feel any envy towards the fortune Jianchen had obtained. But even if you've obtained some fortune or legacy that allowed your comprehension to skyrocket, it's from a dead god king in the end. I, Weiner Yen, have my own fortune, and that was to become a part of the Earth Spirit sect. Weiner Yen closed his eyes slowly. He lowered his head to glance at his vicious injuries as his lips curled into a faint smile. Great confidence and pride flooded his face as he murmured, Not only have I joined the Earth Spirit sect, becoming a protector, but my master is a God King as well. Even though my master is not as famous as God King Duanmu, nor is he as powerful as God King Duanmu, who even made it onto the God King's throne, he is still alive. A living God King is still more useful than a dead one no matter what. With my master's guidance and nurturing, my strength will grow rapidly. It won't be an exaggeration at all to describe it as skyrocketing. And apart from my master, even the great ancestor will give me some guidance from time to time. Jianchen, how can your mere fortune from God King Duanmu's dwelling match up to mine? And even without the guidance of other experts, I only used 35,000 years to become a mid-god. My cultivation speed will only become faster with Master's personal guidance and the resources of the Earth Spirit sect. Moreover, my laws of strength have already arrived at the edge of mid-over-god. In less than 500 years, I'll be able to become a mid-over-god. In just 45,000 years, I'll have become a mid-over-god. Patriarch of the Tian Yuan clan, I wonder how much time you've used. You can dominate me right now, but who knows if you still can in the future, Weiner Yen revealed a cold smile. He was filled with eagerness for one of those days in the coming 5 centuries. This was because he was confident that as long as he could reach the level of mid-over-god with his comprehension of laws, he would be the victor. A few days later, the discussion hall in the Tian Yuan clan had been rebuilt. Currently, Jianchen was listening to Mo Ling and Ando Fu's reports in there. Patriarch, the Hua family and the Dong family have offered up 2/3 of their territory. Apart from them, the other clans in the city have offered up parts of their territory as well. Our Tian Yuan clan now possesses half of the territory in the city. Moreover, all the entry fees paid by outsiders will belong to our Tian Yuan clan in the future. The fees and revenue from the various businesses in the city will amount to several 100,000 low-grade divine crystals daily. Has the Weiner clan made any moves recently? Jianchen asked. The Weiner clan has not. It is just like before, said Ando Fu. After a moment of thought, Jianchen said from the Patriarch's throne, after deducting the expenses of the clan from the income of divine crystals, split half of it among everyone as remuneration. Give the other half to the madam. Yes, Patriarch, Mo Ling and Ando Fu replied simultaneously. Then Jianchen looked down. In the hall, there were 4 other gods aside from Mo Ling and Ando Fu. The 4 of them came from the Nanyun clan. Nanyun Tong, how much do you know about the Earth Spirit sect and the Heavenly Moon Empire? Jianchen asked. Now that the Nanyun clan had joined the Tian Yuan clan, they were technically people of the Tian Yuan clan. Nanyun Tong tidied himself a little and stood up politely. He said with a bow, Patriarch, the Heavenly Moon Empire is one of the 6 ancient empires of the southern region of the Cloud Plain. Every single one of the 6 ancient empires possesses unfathomable strength. It's far beyond what we can imagine. Although I do not know the precise strength of the empires, I do know that our divine kingdom of Pingtian is only an ant compared to them. They only need to flick a finger to wipe out our divine kingdom. The Heavenly Moon Empire is one of the 6. They're the closest empire to our divine kingdom of Pingtian. The empire has a total of 3 powerful organizations. One of them is the Imperial Family, which controls the entire empire. The other 2 are 2 large sects in the Heavenly Moon Empire. They're also extremely powerful, possessing extremely great status in the empire. It's said that even the Imperial Family must show some respect towards the 2 sections. The Earth Spirit sect is one of them. Does the Heavenly Moon Empire possess primordial realm experts? What about the Earth Spirit sect? And you mentioned earlier that the Heavenly Moon Empire was one of the 6 empires in the southern region of the Cloud Plain. Aside from the southern region, how many more regions are there in the Cloud Plain? Jianchen asked. Although he had spent a few years on the Cloud Plain already, his understanding of its geography was just too lackluster. Nanyun Tong could not help but be slightly taken aback when he heard Jianchen's question. The patriarch of the Tian Yuan clan was powerful, but his knowledge was simply too limited. However, Nanyun Tong still explained politely, Patriarch, I do not know whether the Heavenly Moon Empire or the Earth Spirit sect possess primordial realm experts. As for the Cloud Plain, the Cloud Plain is split into 5 major regions. They are the eastern region Zaheo, the southern region Blood Sun, the western region Jinjian, the northern region Shi, and the central region Everlasting Tian. The 5 regions have been named like this because each region possesses an immovable eternal empire. They are the eternal Zaheo Empire of the eastern region, the eternal Blood Sun Empire of the southern region, the eternal Jinjian Empire of the western region, and the eternal Shi Empire of the northern region. As for the central region, it is ruled by the everlasting Tian Empire. Although there are some ancient empires like the Heavenly Moon Empire in the four regions of North, South, East, and West, the four eternal empires are supreme existences. They are the true rulers of the region. Only a few divine kingdoms exist in the central region. There is no other empire apart from the everlasting Tian Empire. Chapter 1804, Passing on Laws, 1. If that's the case, the eternal empires that control the four regions are far more powerful than the Heavenly Moon Empire. Jianchen laid back on the patriarch's throne lazily as he tapped a finger on the arm of the throne gently, murmuring to himself. Only now had he finally gained a deeper understanding of the cloud plain. Nanyun Tong nodded sternly as he listened to Jianchen's murmur. He continued, "You're right, patriarch. The four eternal empires that control the eastern, western, northern, and southern regions are on a completely different level of power compared to the Heavenly Moon Empire. I've once heard from an overgod that even if the 6 ancient empires of our southern region work together, they won't be able to shake the eternal Blood Sun Empire." Ancient empires. Eternal empires, Jianchen murmured softly as the light in his eyes flickered. He seemed to be in thought. After a moment of silence, he continued with his questions. What about the everlasting Tian Empire in the central region? Veneration immediately flooded Nanyun Tong's face when the everlasting Tian Empire was mentioned. Respect filled his face as he said gruffly, "The everlasting Tian Empire of the central region is much more powerful than the 4 eternal empires. As for by how much, I have no idea, but I do know that the 4 eternal empires must lower themselves before the everlasting empire. Even with their power, the 4 great empires have to behave meekly before the everlasting empire?" The power of the everlasting Tian Empire made Jianchen stern and shocked. Afterwards, Jianchen asked some more questions about the cloud plain before dismissing Nanyun Tong and everyone else. In the blink of an eye, only Jianchen, Mo Ling, and Ando Fu were left in the grand discussion hall. Mo Ling and Ando Fu looked at Jianchen, who was sitting on the throne. They seemed to want to say something, but they were hesitating. "What is it?" "You can tell me directly," said Jianchen. Mo Ling and Ando Fu looked at each other. Afterwards, Mo Ling clasped his fist towards Jianchen and said, "Patriarch, the entire provincial city is under our Tian Yuan clan's control. Without any exaggeration, it's our territory, yet the businesses we control only amount to 40% of the total. You want to expand our businesses in the provincial city?" Jianchen asked. Mo Ling said, "A clan requires cultivation resources to become powerful. Right now, our clan's income is only several 100,000 low-grade divine crystals daily. However, half of this comes from the entry fees of people coming into the city, while the remaining amount comes from our businesses. That only amounts to 3,000 or 4,000 low-grade divine crystals. If you look at the other 5 great provincial cities in the divine kingdom of Pingtian, the clans there basically control 80% of the businesses in the cities. The other clans control the remaining 20%. As one of the clans that control a provincial city, we're the one that controls the least businesses. If we increase the number of businesses a little, we'll be able to make an extremely respectable sum daily." Jianchen shook his head gently. "Even if we can increase our income by several 100,000 low-grade divine crystals a day, it's only several dozen high-grade divine crystals after you convert it. There's no need to force all the other clans in the city to the end of their road just for these divine crystals. Moreover, don't forget that there's also a Wainer clan in the provincial city." Jianchen continued, "More importantly, the 2 of you haven't truly understood why I founded the Tian Yuan clan. I founded the clan only to provide a shelter for my friends and families. I do not wish to rule." Mo Ling and Ando Fu looked at each other. They probably never expected Jianchen to give them such an answer. After leaving the discussion hall, Jianchen directly made his way to the Forbidden Grounds because all the people who had come to the Saints' World with him cultivated there. "Yenner, how many times do I have to tell you? You don't use the sword like that. Your stab is too slow. Remember, whether it's striking out or pulling it back, you need to be lightning fast. Your sword lacks a certain sharpness, and it also lacks the determination to kill." Just as Jianchen was making his way towards the Forbidden Grounds, He heard a familiar voice and could not help but look over. He saw Shiyu in white clothes, holding a tree branch as she seriously taught Mo Yen how to use the sword. Mo Yen was either not trying, or the sword really did not suit her. Even though she was now at the peak of sainthood, her usage of the sword was still at the level of a beginner's. Jianchen came to a halt unintentionally before slowly making his way towards Shiyu and Mo Yen. Patriarch Jianchen, why have you come? Mo Yen was not trying at all, so she discovered Jianchen very quickly. She immediately beamed with joy. Shiyu immediately froze up when she heard Mo Yen mention Jianchen. She slowly put down the branch in her hand and turned around to look at Jianchen, who had made his way over. Her feelings immediately became rather mixed, and she clasped her fist towards Jianchen. Shiyu greets the patriarch. Currently, Shiyu's feelings were completely mixed. In the past, she even disdained Jianchen, yet now, he had become the patriarch of a clan. Even the ancestor of the Mo clan, Mo Ling, had become his subordinate. Patriarch Jianchen, why have you come here? Aren't you busy? Mo Yen was not as polite as Shiyu towards Jianchen. She ran over to him and giggled without any regard for politeness. However, when she glanced at Shiyu, who stood to one side with a strange gaze, a mysterious smile appeared on her face. She raised her heels and whispered in Jianchen's ear, Patriarch Jianchen, I already know why you're here. You must like Sister Shiyu, right? You began liking her long ago. Don't think that I don't know. I'll tell you secretly that Sister Shiyu likes you as well. She just can't bring herself to say it. Although Mo Yen spoke very softly, she was a deity after all. Let alone her whispers, even if she wanted to communicate with Jianchen secretly, she would not be able to hide it from Shiyu. As a result, Shiyu heard everything that Mo Yen had said, word for word. Shiyu's face immediately became bright red. She was both angered and embarrassed as she glared at Mo Yen. She scolded, Mo Yen, what are you blabbering about? Stop making up lies. Jianchen was amused when he Mo Yan's serious expression. He knocked Mo Yan's forehead and laughed. Mo Yen, you can't say these things anymore in the future, or I'll ground you and stop you from going outside anymore. Chapter 1805. Passing on Laws 2. Mo Yen immediately became unhappy. She pouted her lips. Fine then. I want to help you, yet you don't even appreciate it and want to ground me. So much for my good intentions. Mo Yen was no longer in the mood to learn the sword anymore. She picked up her sword and left. Jianchen shook his head helplessly as he watched Mo Yen walked away. Afterwards, he looked at Shiyu, and his eyes gradually deepened. He said, Miss Shiyu also seems to have comprehended the laws of the sword, right? Patriarch, I do indeed comprehend the laws of the sword. Shiyu straightened herself and answered honestly. Jianchen's status was completely different from before, so she clearly felt a little unnatural before Jianchen. However, perhaps due to Mo Yan's words, Shiyu avoided Jianchen's gaze slightly. Her face remained slightly flushed as well. Show me what you've comprehended, Jianchen asked calmly, completely ignoring the redness on Shiyu's face. Shiyu was surprised. She seemed to realize that Jianchen wanted to guide her personally. A strange light could not help but appear in her eyes. Jianchen's laws of the sword had reached the level of overgods, while overgods were insurmountable existences in Shiyu's eyes. If she could receive the personal guidance of an overgod who had comprehended the laws of the sword, it would be extremely beneficial to her own comprehension. She might even be able to become a god in a single stroke. Shiyu immediately became slightly excited. However, she sucked in a breath soon afterwards and forcefully calmed herself down. Suddenly, Shiyu emitted a sharp sword chi. A dazzling sword had appeared in her hand. Its light surged as she slashed towards a fake mountain nearby with her full strength. This attack contained Shiyu's greatest comprehension of the laws of the sword. Through the might of her sword, she demonstrated her comprehension of the laws of the sword to Jianchen. Boom! With a great rumble, the fake mountain was not damaged at all after withstanding Shiyu's most powerful strike. After all, a layer of formations protected the entire Tianyuan clan. Although the formations were not enough to stop attacks from overgods, They were not something that a late deity like Shiyu could destroy. A gleam of light shone through Jian Chen's eyes. From that single attack, Jian Chen could tell what Shiyu lacked in her comprehension of the laws of the sword. "Shiyu, watch closely," Jian Chen called out. Using his fingers as a sword, he emitted a powerful streak of light and directly stabbed towards Shiyu's head. As Jian Chen stabbed out, a surging sword chi immediately permeated the surroundings. Shiyu sensed it the most intensely. In Shiyu's eyes, she seemed to have moved into a sea filled with sword chi that clustered densely all around her. Endless sword chi surrounded her. Every single strand of sword chi there seemed to represent a law of the world, and the countless sword chi seemed to form the laws of the world. At the very beginning, Shiyu was surprised, but she understood very soon. Jian Chen was passing on his own laws. He was using this method to invoke his comprehensions of the laws of the sword, displaying it to her in the simplest fashion possible. Shiyu could not help but close her eyes. Looking could not allow her to understand the laws that Jian Chen was passing on to her. She had to comprehend it using her heart. If she comprehended some of the mysteries there, it was extremely likely for her to become a god. However, if she failed, Jian Chen's attempt this time would be completely useless and a waste of time. Comprehending the laws of the world was not as simple as cultivation. To cultivate, a person only needed to ingest a few heavenly resources, and they would be able to increase their cultivation with the energy within. On the other hand, there were no shortcuts to comprehending the laws of the sword. It would all be up to the individual. Even after ingesting heavenly resources that assisted comprehension like comprehension T, personal comprehension was still required to understand the mysteries within there. It would not directly increase a person's comprehension of laws. The sword chi from Jian Chen's fingertips stopped before Shiyu's forehead, and the sword chi slowly dispersed. Jian Chen pulled back his hand, and he stared at Shiyu, who currently had her eyes closed. Around half an hour later, Shiyu finally opened her eyes. There was a sliver of understanding in her eyes. "Do you understand?" At the same time, Jian Chen asked her. Shiyu looked over and saw Jian Chen standing next to a pond nearby with his back towards her. There was a gentle breeze that blew his hair around while his white robes fluttered gently as well. He seemed slightly otherworldly. Shiyu's eyes suddenly narrowed as she stared at Jian Chen's back. Somehow, she seemed to sense an indomitable presence from Jian Chen's back. "I understood a little, but there's still a lot I don't understand," Shiyu said gently as her emotions were mixed. Jian Chen slowly turned around and stared at Shiyu with reassurance. He said, "Since you've understood a little, it means that your affinity for comprehension is extremely great. It won't be a waste for me to guide you." Suddenly, Jian Chen pointed a finger towards the sky. A huge streak of light shot out directly towards the sky. At the same time, an even more powerful sword intent radiated from his body, enveloping the entire Tianyuan clan in a single instance. The sword intent did not just stop there. Instead, it rapidly expanded throughout the city with lightning speed. Eventually, it enveloped the entire city, shocking everyone around. What powerful sword intent! It's from the patriarch of the Tianyuan clan. What is he doing? This is definitely the laws at the level of Overgod. It's the Overgod from the Tianyuan clan. Whether it was the gods of other clans or the people who had settled down in the city temporarily, they all gazed in the direction of the Tianyuan clan in shock. Mo Ling and Ando Fu hurried over within the Tianyuan clan as well. They watched from the distance as Jian Chen pointed his finger towards the sky as he stood next to the pond. Shock filled their faces as well. Jian Chen had already closed his eyes, connecting himself with the laws of the sword in the surroundings as best as possible. He maintained his posture for around 10 minutes before finally opening his eyes. At that moment, his pupils had lost their original black. They shone with dazzling, silver-white light. They seemed as bright as lanterns when the white eyes and pupils fused together. At that moment, Jian Chen slowly guided his finger through the air. As his finger moved, the formations on the fake mountain in the distance immediately collapsed. A huge slash gradually appeared there. The mark on the fake mountain grew longer and longer as Jian Chen's hand moved. It flickered with light, and it seemed to contain a mysterious power. A sliver of exhaustion appeared on Jian Chen's face after creating the mark, as if leaving behind the slash on the fake mountain had taken a great toll on him. The slash contains all my comprehension of the laws of the sword. It'll just depend on your affinity for comprehension as for how long it will take you to become an overgod, Jian Chen said to Shiyu before leaving step by step with exhaustion. He directly made his way to the forbidden grounds. Shiyu stared at Jian Chen's back as she felt greatly touched. Her lip quivered gently. She seemed to want to ask Jian Chen why he wanted to help her like this, but in the end, she held back her desire to do so. She understood that even many disciples could not enjoy something like passing on laws, as it simply took too great of a toll on the person who was passing on the laws. Even when a few masters would use a method like this for their disciples, the masters would only pass on a portion of their laws. However, according to Jian Chen's words, he seemed to have engraved all his comprehension of the laws of the sword there. If all the mysteries in the slash could be comprehended, she would directly be able to become an overgod. Chapter 1806. A God King's treasure. Mo Ling and Ando Fu naturally saw Jian Chen leave behind a mark for comprehending the laws of the sword for Shiyu as they were standing to one side. They had their own thoughts about the matter. Currently, Mo Ling's emotions could only be described as overjoyed, while Ando Fu was filled with envy. He sighed to himself. Just why did his Ando clan not possess a great woman like Shiyu? If Yuer can end up marrying the patriarch, it would be a joyous matter, thought Mo Ling. He was filled with anticipation. Although he knew that Jian Chen was already married, having several wives was very common in the saints' world. As a matter of fact, a woman having many husbands in the saints' world was common as well. Currently, in the forbidden grounds of the Tianyuan clan, Jian Chen, Shangguan Mu'er, Xiao Jin, Xiao Ling, the White Tiger, Newbies, Rui Jin, Hong Lian, He Yu, Xiong Zhong, and the others from the world of Forsaken Saints had all gathered together. Alright, this is all I know about the saints' world so far. From today onwards, you can cultivate in the Tianyuan clan in peace. This clan was founded for you in the first place. Jian Chen told everyone all he knew about the saints' world as he sat on the ground. Since they had come to this world, they had to understand everything important about it. Jian Chen, have you heard any news of our dragon and phoenix clans? Ruijin asked. Anticipation filled his eyes. The three of them had assisted and protected Jian Chen with everything they had back on the Tianyuan continent just so that they could find their clansmen. This was because they had come across the winged tiger god from the ancient times back in the lower world. The winged tiger god had told them before that if they wanted to find their clansmen, they had to follow Jian Chen. Jian Chen was their only hope for reuniting with their clansmen. It was exactly because of this that they treated Jian Chen's life with even more importance than their own back on the Tianyuan continent. Senior Rui Jin, don't worry. Although I haven't heard anything about the two clans right now, please believe me. I will devote myself to finding your clansmen, Jian Chen swore to Rui Jin, Hong Lian, and He Yu. Hong Lian was wearing her fire-red dress. Her face darkened as she sighed gently. Don't get too optimistic about our clansmen, Rui Jin. Back when our clansmen followed the beast god up to the higher world, the strongest of them were only saint emperors. It's probably very difficult for them to survive with such weak strength. We don't even know if our clansmen are still around or not after so much time. I believe that they're still around because they followed the ancient winged tiger god up to the higher world, Jian Chen said confidently because he understood that the winged tiger god from the ancient times was not as simple as it seemed on the surface. I hope so, Hong Lian said softly. Only after listening to Jian Chen's explanations did she understand the vastness of the saints' world. Just the cloud plain could be described boundless. And the saints' world had a total of 49 great plains and 81 great planets. Big brother, I miss Master so much, Xiaoling said while choking back her tears. Deep yearning filled her eyes. Jian Chen immediately comforted her before conversing casually with everyone else. Afterwards, everyone dispersed. Apart from Xiaoling and Xiao Jin, who had run out eagerly, everyone entered seclusion. Jian Chen entered a room. Currently, he sat in the center of the slightly gloomy place and held a space ring in his hand. Jian Chen examined the space ring and murmured, "It's time for me to look through what is left." The space ring was the one that Fairy Haoyu had removed from God King Duanmu's remains. She had given it to him when they parted before. As soon as Jianchen sent his senses into the space ring, he became stunned by the vast space inside. It was nothing like a space ring. The space in there was virtually a miniature world. Without any doubt, this space ring could hold the entire Tianyuan continent. Jianchen expanded the senses of his soul to envelope as much space as he could. He discovered a large number of materials, heavenly resources, and scrolls in the space ring. He had even come across a few bottles for pills, but most of them were empty. There was only a bare minimum number of divine crystals. Jianchen knew that Fairy Haoyu had basically used up all the divine crystals and the pills that were helpful to her when she condensed her body. As a result, the lack of divine crystals did not surprise him at all. Jianchen took out all the scrolls first. After tidying through them, he discovered that the scrolls possessed some cultivation methods and various battle skills left behind by God King Duanmu, as well as his personal notes for cultivation and so on. These were not the cultivation methods and battle skills God King Duanmu used. Instead, he had slowly accumulated them across his life. There were even 2 cultivation methods created by God King Duanmu, but they only reached Overgod unfortunately, making them incomplete. There were over a dozen battle skills, and they were all of an extremely high grade. Some of them would even be extremely beneficial to God Kings. The battle skills suited people who had comprehended various laws, except for the sword. Next, Jianchen looked at the notes about cultivation God King Duanmu had left behind. There were a total of 3 scrolls of notes. One scroll described the laws of space, while the other 2 were both devoted to the laws of the sword. Jianchen ignored the notes on the laws of space, as they were useless for him right now. Instead, he looked at the notes on the laws of the sword. After just flipping through it, he beamed happily and immediately put it away like a treasure. Fantastic! With these 2 scrolls of notes, my way of the sword will be close to breaking through to the partial achievement of sword spirit. Jianchen was extremely excited. God King Duanmu's laws of the sword could not exceed his own by too much, unlike the nirvanic immortal exalts. As a result, God King Duanmu's notes were useful to Jianchen. 10,000-year God origin pills. Soul recovery pills. Afterwards, Jianchen looked at the pills, and he immediately beamed. There were many types of pills, with many that he had not even heard about. However, there just happened to be ones that garnered his interest. There were a total of 5 bottles of 10,000-year God origin pills. Each bottle possessed exactly 10 pills, so there were 50 pills in total. There were 3 whole bottles of soul recovery pills. Each bottle also possessed 10 pills, amounting to 30. There are actually 30 soul recovery pills here. At that moment, Jianchen became as joyful as he had ever felt. He no longer had to worry too much about using his strands of profound sword qi now that he had these pills. However, he also understood that as his strength increased and his soul grew stronger, his need for soul recovery pills would grow. Just a single pill was enough to recover the power of an early overgod soul, but after becoming a mid-overgod, one would probably need 2, 3, or even 4 pills to fully recover. As for God Kings, they would need as many as several dozens. Chapter 1807. Secluded cultivation. Putting aside the 10,000-year God origin pills and the soul recovery pills, there were 4 pills that Jianchen had never seen before. He did not know about their exact usage. Apart from them, there were over 20 empty bottles. From the marks on the bottles, Jianchen could easily tell that they had been opened recently and Fairy Haoyu had ingested all the pills inside. There were quite a few heavenly resources left in the ring as well. The most eye-catching one was a ginseng that was completely golden and 3 meters in length. What a large ginseng! It basically looks like a small tree. Moreover, the ginseng is completely golden as if it has been plated with gold. I can tell with a single glance that it's extremely precious. Jianchen could not help but sigh in amazement. He had seen quite a few ginseng on the Tianyuan continent, but he had never seen one so big. Apart from the golden ginseng, there were even more heavenly resources and medicinal herbs. They were all the type that Jianchen could not name. However, without a doubt, They were nothing ordinary. Violet scale stone. Master, there's violet scale stone. At this moment, Jianchen heard the voices of the sword spirits. What's violet scale stone? Jianchen was slightly surprised and immediately looked around. Master, violet scale stone is a material for forging weapons. It has already reached the 9th grade of the immortal tier, making it one of the crucial materials for forging the twin swords. Master, the violet scale stone is 30 kilometers ahead of you, Ziying told Jianchen. Jianchen immediately expanded his senses and indeed, he found a huge piece of rock that was 3 meters wide at the place that Ziying had mentioned. The rock was completely violet and possessed a strange patterning, making it seem like scales. This must be the violet scale stone. Jianchen studied the piece of rock. He knocked it with his hand, gently out of curiosity. He could tell just how tough the rock was from touching it. Even if he used his full strength, he would probably struggle to leave behind a mark. It really is a 9th grade immortal tier material, Jianchen marveled. Master, there's a piece of profound lightning rock 20 kilometers to the west. It's also a 9th grade immortal tier material. Fantastic. I never thought that we'd find 2 materials at once, Qing Suo said excitedly. Jianchen immediately found the profound lightning rock. Just like the violet scale stone, it was a type of mineral. Lightning flickered on its surface, and it would produce sparks from time to time. Moreover, the electricity from the rock was extremely dangerous. Even Saint Emperors would basically be doomed if they came in contact with it. I wonder who would touch the rock if I threw it onto the Tianyuan continent, Jianchen could not help but wonder. Ziying, Qing Suo, have a look again closely. See if there are any other materials for forging the swords nearby, Jianchen said to the sword spirits. There was a huge pile of materials that Jianchen did not recognize in God King Duanmu's space ring. Only the sword spirits knew whether they could be used for refining swords. All right, we'll have a look closely, replied Qing Suo before looking around seriously again. However, they failed to find a third material that could be used to forge the twin swords. There were quite a few materials for forging swords. As a matter of fact, there were many of them. However, the grade of the materials was just too low, so they could only give up on them. It's still quite the surprise to be able to find 2. We can slowly collect the other materials later, Jianchen said in satisfaction before putting the space ring away. Afterwards, Jianchen called for Mo Ling and gave him a portion of the cultivation methods and battle skills. He used them as the cultivation methods that the Tianyuan clan could provide. Once a member of the clan had made great contributions to the clan, they could use their merit to exchange for the cultivation methods. Jianchen left the better, remaining cultivation methods and battle skills on a stone table in the Forbidden Grounds so that the people from the Tianyuan continent could choose whatever they wanted once they emerged from seclusion. Afterwards, Jianchen told Mo Ling and Ando Fu about how he wanted the clan to develop in the future before leaving all the matters of the clan to them. On the other hand, he entered seclusion. Jianchen sat in the room as the huge, golden ginseng he had found in God King Duanmu's space ring was placed beside him. Not only had he found 50 10,000-year God origin pills in God King Duanmu's space ring this time, but he had also found a large number of heavenly resources, including the golden ginseng. A supreme God King had collected all these heavenly resources, so they were of extremely high grade. The heavenly resources he had collected from the Xianhuang microcosm could not match up to them. As a result, he wanted to see if he could reach the 11th layer of the chaotic body through these heavenly resources and the 50 10,000-year God origin pills. The medicinal effects of the golden ginseng will probably be very violent and powerful. But my chaotic body has already reached the 10th layer, so it's naturally not a problem for me to withstand it, Jianchen murmured before directly ripping off a root from the ginseng and wolfing it down. Immediately, droplets of golden fluid rolled down from the corner of his mouth with energy. As the energy radiated from the golden juice, the entire room became filled with energy. The only problem was that the energy was extremely powerful and violent. Many heavenly resources possessed overbearing and tough effects, so very few people ever consumed them directly. They were basically all refined into pills, and their brutality was removed by combining them with other medicinal herbs so that their effects were gentler. Probably only other cultivators who possessed a body as tough as Jian Chen's would be able to wolf down heavenly resources as recklessly as him. Jian Chen used his hand to wipe the corner of his mouth and swallowed all the juice. He did not let a single droplet go to waste. As the root reached his stomach, they exploded within him like gunpowder. Wild and brutal energy wreaked havoc within him, rampaging through his flesh and organs. Originally, Jian Chen believed he could easily endure the medicinal effects of the golden ginseng with the toughness of his 10th layer chaotic body. However, only now did he suddenly realize that he had underestimated the ginseng too much. The effects were so violent that Jian Chen had never seen anything like it before. Jian Chen's body shook wildly as he furrowed his brows tightly. The pain was so intense that even his face had paled slightly. What wild energy, Jian Chen thought. He gritted his teeth as he devoted himself to refining the energy. It was an extremely arduous process for Jian Chen to refine the energy within the root. With his ability, he spent an entire month to completely refine all the energy. Jian Chen did not stop. He pulled off a second root, and without even frowning, he directly threw it into his mouth. Chapter 1808. 15 years Jian Chen refined the tremendous energy within the huge, golden ginseng. It was an extremely long and arduous process. He required a very long time to wear away the brutal energy before being able to transform it into chaotic force. After all, the tremendous energy within the golden ginseng was not as gentle as the energy within the violet cloud peaches that could be easily absorbed without any difficulty at all. Jian Chen lost track of time as cultivation was timeless. He devoted himself to cultivation. Near him lay the 3-meter-long golden ginseng. However, the ginseng was only half of its initial size now. Jian Chen had devoured all its roots and refined into tremendous energy, so the chaotic Niden in his dantian gradually grew. 5 years passed in a flash. The golden ginseng had vanished from the gloomy room while Jian Chen held the last piece of fist-sized ginseng flesh. After sighing, he shoved the last piece of ginseng flesh into his mouth before closing his eyes and devoting himself to refining its energy. As the last piece of ginseng flesh reached Jian Chen's stomach, he finally devoured the entire huge ginseng after 5 whole years. The energy within the golden ginseng was enough for my chaotic Niden to grow from the size of a soybean to the size of a thumb. The energy required for any progress after I've reached the 10th layer of the chaotic body has increased by so many times. I wonder if the other heavenly resources from God King Duanmu's space ring and the 50 10,000-year God origin pills will be enough for me to reach the 11th layer or not, Jian Chen thought. Even though early overgods posed no threat to him, and there was no need for him to even fear mid-overgods with his current strength, he was not a late overgod's opponent. He had managed to emerge victorious against the late overgod Master Chanlong because the latter was a formation master. He was skilled at using formations against his opponents and not in open battles. Hence, Jian Chen managed to achieve a close victory against him. I've gained a stable footing in the Dong'an province now, but there are still some people who can threaten me in the divine kingdom of Pingtian like Yang Kai, who has reached late overgod, and the commander of the Royal Divine Army, Xiando. I would not be their opponents, as my 10th layer chaotic force is only equivalent to God's. If my chaotic body can progress some more, reaching the 11th layer, my cultivation would directly be on par with overgods according to the sword spirits. By then, will there still be any more overgods that are my opponent? The only people I will have to fear will probably be God Kings, thought Jian Chen. Jian Chen had gained a detailed understanding of the corresponding cultivation levels for the future layers of the chaotic body in the past few years. The 11th layer of the chaotic body was equivalent to Xian immortals in the immortals world, and Xian immortals were equivalent to overgods in the saints world. If he reached the 12th layer, he would be equivalent to the 9 heavenly Xian immortals of the immortals world. 9 heavenly Xian immortals were equivalent to God Kings in the saints world. The 12th layer was also the peak of the partial achievement of the chaotic body. Surpassing the 12th layer and reaching the 13th would be equivalent to reaching the major achievement. The chaotic body had a total of 18 layers, and the 13th to the 18 layers were all a part of the major achievement. The 13th layer of the chaotic body was equivalent to immortal monarchs in the immortals world, which were equivalent to infinite primes in the saints world. Although the cultivator's strength would increase substantially with each layer of the chaotic body, the difference between minor cultivation levels in the primordial realm was also extremely great. As a result, once he reached the 13th layer of the chaotic body, his strength would progress very slowly. Below the primordial realm, each layer of the chaotic body would be equivalent to a major cultivation realm or even several of them. However, the 13th layer, 14th layer, and 15th layer would all correspond to infinite primes due to the huge disparity between each cultivation level. The 16th, 17th, and 18th layers would correspond to chaotic primes of the saints' world. However, due to the power of the chaotic body, people who had reached the 18th layer would be able to hold their ground against regular grand primes, even though they were only peak chaotic primes technically. Beyond the 18th layer was the great perfection of the chaotic body, which only existed in the legends. No one had ever managed to reach the great perfection of the chaotic body, including the few people with the innate chaotic body throughout the history of the immortals world. I have to reach the 11th layer as soon as possible, Jianchen made up his mind. After devouring the golden ginseng, he immediately removed other heavenly resources from God King Duanmu's space ring and wolfed them down. Who knew whether Weiner Yen would ask for other experts of the Earth Spirit sect to move against him now that they had fallen out? As a result, he always felt pressured. Only when he became even more powerful could he be free from worry. A few decades were less than a split second to the Dong'an province that had already existed on the land of the Cloud Plain for several 100,000 years. Now, Jianchen had already been in seclusion for 15 years. Although Jianchen never appeared within the clan during this period of time, the impression he had left in the hearts of the other clans in the city remained the same. The name of the Tianyuan clan had completely spread across the divine kingdom of Pingtian, so everyone knew that a Tianyuan clan had appeared in the Dong'an province. Moreover, their patriarch had defeated the overgod of the Weiner clan, and the clan had claimed the entire province as their land. It was to the point where even the royal capital would not interfere with anything that happened in there. As a matter of fact, quite a few people heard about the Tianyuan clan of the Dong'an province in the neighboring countries as well, leading to quite a few people feeling admiration for them. The Tianyuan clan had become the insurmountable existence within the Dong'an province now. As for Mo Ling and Ando Fu, they basically managed all the affairs in the clan as Jianchen was in seclusion. As a result, they had become authoritative members of the clan, and they were people who could shake up the entire province wherever they went. Chapter 1809, Partial Achievement of Sword Spirit, 1. As Weiner Yen was also in seclusion, the Weiner clan had kept an extremely low profile in the provincial city across the years. The two gods of the Weiner clan waited for Weiner Yen to emerge quietly. Due to the miserable outcome of the fight between the patriarch of the Tianyuan clan and Weiner Yen, the two gods did not dare to expand their territory recklessly during the time that Weiner Yen was in seclusion. Clearly, they feared the Tianyuan clan. However, the Weiner clan still became famed within the Dong'an province and the divine kingdom of Pingtian. However, their radiance had been suppressed by the Tianyuan clan, so barely anyone paid any attention to them in the provincial city. The strength of the Tianyuan clan increased rapidly over the 15 years. The number of gods they possessed had reached 12. Apart from Mo Ling, Ando Fu, and the 4 gods from the Nanyun clan, 5 other gods had joined the Tianyuan clan as elders. The last god was a woman who had not been cultivating for particularly long, Shiyu. Shiyu's talent was extremely great, and she had only cultivated for a few mere millennia. Even without any help, becoming a god was only a matter of time with her talent, and it would not take too long. After Jianchen left behind a slash passing on his laws, basically engraving all his comprehension at sword spirit into it, Shiyu became a god much faster. On a certain day 15 years later, Jianchen slowly opened his eyes in the forbidden grounds of the Tianyuan clan. With a flip of his hand, he removed an unknown heavenly resource from his space ring. Jian stared at the heavenly resources that seemed very standard calmly before shaking his head gently. He sighed, I can't consume anymore. I've already consumed more than a dozen over the past years I spent cultivating. My body has developed resistance, so any benefit I get from consuming more heavenly resources will diminish. However, I do have 5 drops of liquid lime. Liquid lime has the wondrous effect of cleansing the body of residues from consuming too many pills and the resistance developed from using too many heavenly resources, Jian murmured gently. He immediately took out his bottle of liquid lime from his space ring. He removed the cap and poured a droplet into his mouth without any hesitation at all. Jian immediately felt a cool sensation throughout his entire body when the liquid lime reached his stomach. As the cool sensation rapidly spread, he felt an indescribable comfort, and even his pores opened up. He could feel that the resistance he had developed to heavenly resources was slowly dispersed with the permeation of the cool sensation. Moreover, Jian felt his soul become extremely clear. Vaguely, the profound laws of the world seemed to have become even clearer in his eyes. The effects were similar to drinking comprehension tea. Not only could the liquid lime cleanse the body of any pill residues or developed resistances, but it also possessed some effects like the comprehension tea. However, the effects of the liquid lime were clearly much less potent compared to comprehension tea. Several hours later, the cool sensation from the liquid lime finally receded slowly, while Jian's resistance to heavenly resources had finally been completely eradicated. Liquid lime really is good stuff, Jian could not help but sigh in amazement. Afterwards, without any hesitation, he immediately consumed more heavenly resources to increase his strength as quickly as possible. Time passed silently, and unknowingly, Jian had consumed all the heavenly resources in God King Duanmu's space ring. As the heavenly resources were all high-grade, the benefits they granted were far greater than the high-grade divine crystal mine Jian previously absorbed. His chaotic Niden grew larger and larger. Jian did not stop because of that. He took out 5 bottles from his space ring again. To no surprise, they held the 10,000-year God origin pills. A single 10,000-year God origin pill was equivalent to 10,000 years of cultivation. That would mean 50 pills equated to 500,000 years worth of cultivation. I wonder if these 50 pills will be enough for me to reach the 11th layer of the chaotic body, Jian thought. He removed the bottle cap and ingested 5 pills in a single stroke. He was already able to endure the brutal energy within the God origin pills when he was still at the 9th layer of the chaotic body, so now that he had reached the 10th layer, they posed even less of a threat to him. After some time, Jian had consumed all 50 pills. When he looked inside his dandan, Jian was filled with helplessness when he saw the size of his chaotic Niden. It was almost the size of a fist. All the heavenly resources from God King Duanmu's space ring and the 50 God origin pills were still not enough for him to reach the 11th layer of the chaotic body. Aside from the 10 blocks of high-grade divine crystal from the Divine King, I only have a few pieces of supreme-grade divine crystals from God King Duanmu's space ring. But I feel that even if I absorb them all, it still won't be enough for my chaotic body to break through, thought Jian. The light in his eyes flickered in thought as he sat in the room. A while later, Jian made up his mind. His eyes became determined, and he suddenly stood up, making his way out of the room. I never thought that I've already cultivated for 50 years, Jian could not help but sigh as he stared at the sky while standing outside. Mo Ling and O Fu, come here immediately. Jian immediately summoned Mo Ling and O Fu after leaving the Forbidden Grounds. Very soon, Mo Ling and O Fu arrived before Jian at the same time. However, there were 10 other gods aside from the 2 of them. Greetings to the Patriarch. A total of 12 gods stood before Jian and bowed towards him. Jian glanced past them and discovered that there were a few people he had never seen before among them. He immediately understood them to be outsiders that had joined the Tian Yuan clan. Afterwards, Jian looked at the white-clothed Shiyu. He could not help but smile faintly, and he said in some relief, Shiyu, you really haven't disappointed me. You've become a god in such a short amount of time. Chapter 1810, Partial Achievement of Sword Spirit, 2. It's all thanks to the Patriarch's kindness. If it were not for the Patriarch's assistance, I would have never been able to become a god so soon. Shiyu clasped her fist towards Jian Chen as the light in her eyes flickered. Unknowingly, her opinion of Jian Chen had changed silently. Jian Chen was quite indifferent to how Shiyu behaved towards him. After nodding slightly, he looked towards Mo Ling and Ando Fu. He said to the two of them, "I'm going to be leaving for some time. During this period, you two will keep up the management of the clan. If there's anything important, crush this jade talisman." As he said that, he passed a talisman to Mo Ling. The talisman contained a sliver of the power from his soul. Once the talisman was shattered, he would sense it. "Yes, Patriarch." Mo Ling stowed the jade talisman away carefully. Shiyu trembled undetectably when she heard that Jian Chen would be leaving. At that moment, she felt dispirited for some reason. Afterwards, Jian Chen told the people some more things before directly leaving the Tianyuan clan. Shangguan Mu'er and the others were all in secluded cultivation within the forbidden grounds. He did not take anyone with him. He was moving alone this time. Only the seven-colored heaven-devouring beast was an exception. It remained within the bright moon divine hall, lying gently on Kaiya's casket like a royal guard. Sigh. "Kaiya, I wonder when you'll awaken. However, I have completely no clue just what has happened to her. I'll have to ask the overgods to have a look once I go to the royal capital in the future. Let's see whether they know a method to cure Kaiya," Jian Chen thought. He had inspected Kaiya's conditions closely and many times in the past. She clearly was not injured. He had even used the sap from amethyst spiritual bamboo on her. The sap from the bamboo was something for healing injuries to the soul. Even if Kaiya's soul was severely damaged, a single drop would be more than enough for her to make a full recovery with her strength. However, the sap had been like a drop in an ocean when he used it on her. It did not have any effects at all, making Jian Chen very confused. Even the sap from amethyst spiritual bamboo was useless on Kaiya. There are only two possibilities for this. One is that the sap of amethyst spiritual bamboo is not enough for Kaiya's soul to be healed, while the second one is that Kaiya's soul is not injured at all, Jian Chen murmured. He naturally believed it was the second reason. As a result, he was helpless about Kaiya's current predicament. Before long, Jian Chen arrived in front of God King Duanmu's dwelling again. Even though it had already been several decades since the commotion the dwelling caused, the place was still extremely busy and continued to attract many cultivators from distant lands. As a result, many people entered and exited the place basically every day. Although the overgods had taken away all the treasures within the dwelling several decades ago, there were still objects that interested deities and gods within the place. In particular, godhood experts who comprehended the laws of the sword treated the empty dwelling as a great treasure. This was because there were also sword slashes left behind by God King Duanmu. It was exactly because of these slashes that the people in the surrounding divine kingdoms who comprehended the laws of the sword and the laws of space had all gathered here. There were also quite a few Origin Realm cultivators among them. As a matter of fact, there were even a few Saint Emperors who used the sword as their preferred weapon who had come to try their luck. They hoped to come across the fortune that would allow them to rise up. As a result, the current dwelling seemed rather bustling. Jian Chen erased his presence and entered the dwelling as well. He heard various sounds as soon as he entered the dwelling. There were already quite a few people outside, but there were even more inside the dwelling. It was extremely busy like a noisy market. Jian Chen made his way towards the depths of the dwelling with much familiarity, and he arrived in the dwelling of God King Duanmu's disciple very soon. The place was filled with people as well. There were even more people in the Sword Comprehension building. Basically, everyone stared at the sword slash that God King Duanmu had left within the building personally. They tried their hardest to comprehend it and benefit. Jian Chen shook his head gently when he saw the slash within the building. He could tell with a single glance that the slash had lost its mysteriousness and charm. This was because the slashes God King Duanmu left behind could only be comprehended a certain number of times. Once the number exceeded the limit, the slash would lose all its charm and become ordinary. It would be very difficult to benefit from it no matter how it was studied. Jianchen did not stay there for very long. He continued onwards to the very depths. Very soon he arrived before the 3 stone huts. Aside from the first hut that had already collapsed, the 2 other huts remained standing. People would enter and exit from time to time. However, there were quite a few people who had come into the dwelling for the first time outside of the 2 huts. They were hesitating over which hut to enter. Quick, go to the 3rd hut. There's someone who has become a god successfully in the 3rd hut again. At this moment, a voice rang out nearby. When they heard the voice, the cultivators that had gathered there immediately fell into a commotion. What? Someone has broken through again in the 3rd hut? I really do envy them. The 3rd hut has given birth to over a dozen gods. Quick, enter the 3rd hut. The 3rd hut is where God King Duanmu passed away. The comprehension of laws from his past life remains there. The comprehensions have become very thin now, reaching a level that we can comprehend. Cultivating in there will increase your chances of becoming a god drastically. What are you hesitating for? Let's go to the 3rd hut. We might be able to break through there as well and become gods. Immediately, the hesitating cultivators all rushed towards the 3rd hut. Jianchen took a step forwards and made his way towards the stone huts as well. However, he did not go to the 3rd hut but the 2nd. After making it through the entrance, the world around Jianchen opened up. He had entered another world. The place seemed like an extremely large world. It was filled with endless mountain ranges, and each of them stood up like swords, directly reaching towards the sky. Many mountains possessed huge slashes caused by swords. This was where God King Duanmu had once practiced the sword, so an invisible sword chi permeated the entire space. Even though countless years had already passed, the sharpness remained. Chapter 1811. Partial Achievement of Sword Spirit, 3. The place was basically a holy land for those who comprehended the laws of the sword. The slashes on the mountains were a supreme treasure to them. Even to Jianchen, an overgod who had comprehended the laws of the sword, cultivating here would be greatly beneficial. As a matter of fact, there had been countless people who tried all sorts of methods to take the slashes away in the past years. However, none of them had succeeded so far. This was because the mountains that possessed sword slashes were all extremely tough, making it impossible to move them. There were also many people gathered before the mountain ranges. The many cultivators of various cultivation levels either sat on the rocks or hovered in the air as they tried to comprehend the sword intent. Not all of them comprehended the laws of the sword. There were even a few people who comprehended other laws. It was just that they also used swords, so they hoped to comprehend a new usage of the sword from the sword slashes or comprehend the laws of the sword as a second law. Of course, amongst the countless people here, there was only a handful who truly benefited. Jianchen looked around before casually finding a place to sit down. With a flip of his hand, he took out the 2 scrolls detailing God King Duanmu's notes on the laws of the sword from the God King's space ring. He unfurled one of them and began to study it with great concentration. This is where God King Duanmu practiced the sword in the past. Basically, the entire place is filled with God King Duanmu's slashes from his laws of the sword. Comprehending God King Duanmu's notes regarding the laws of the sword in an environment like this would make it far easier without a doubt. I'll be able to reach the partial achievement of sword spirit in the shortest time possible, thought Jianchen. He had sensed long ago that he had already reached the minor achievement of sword spirit. He was only a step away from partial achievement. God King Duanmu was extremely accomplished in the laws of the sword, and he even reached the point where he had a foot planted in the primordial realm. The notes personally written by him would naturally be of great help to Jianchen. Jianchen's entire mind sank into God King Duanmu notes. Jianchen had benefited greatly from reading the 2 scrolls. He felt enlightened, and he seemed to find a direction for many things he did not understand in the past. As a matter of fact, Jianchen even found his erroneous assumptions through the notes, allowing him to deepen his understanding of the laws of the sword. In the blink of an eye, Jianchen had already sat there for 10 years. During this decade, he did not move at all and remained still like a statue. A thick layer of dust had even accumulated on him. That person has sat there for 10 straight years. Has he benefited from it? A decade is not exactly long. I've even cultivated for several hundred years in a single sitting in the past, let alone a decade. It's just that I've yet to see someone who can last 10 years here. Yeah. Perhaps the sword's slashes are just too profound to us, so we're unable to comprehend the mysteries within it all. Basically, everyone needs to stop after 2 or 3 years to mull over what they have found or find another place to continue comprehending. There's rarely anyone who can last for an entire decade here. There has been a few gods who comprehend the laws of the sword that managed to grasp a sliver of the mysteries in there in the past few years. It's just a pity that they couldn't last for too long, and they all vomited blood, becoming heavily injured. The slashes left behind by God King Duanmu are just too profound. You'll naturally be fine if you can't comprehend it, but if you do, even gods will suffer a backlash from the sword intent. This person has lasted 10 years, so his cultivation must be extremely impressive. In just a short decade, Jian Qin had attracted the attention of many. Without any exception, all of them looked at Jian Qin in complete surprise and shock. There were even some people who looked at him in admiration. 10 years of cultivation was nothing for the people present, but being able to comprehend for 10 years at this place was a whole new story. At this moment, Jian Qin finally moved from his statue-like posture. As he moved, large motes of dust fell off him. That person has finally roused. Heavens, he actually hasn't vomited blood. Has he really been comprehending the sword intent here in the past 10 years? Looks like he entered a complete state of selflessness. He must have been comprehending. Who is this? Jian Qin immediately attracted the attention of many after rousing. At that moment, many gazes throughout the mountains had gathered on him. However, no one could recognize Jian Qin. Although they had all heard of the patriarch of the Tianyuan clan, there had only been a handful of people who had truly seen him. Jian Qin did not seem to realize that so many people were staring at him. He slowly put the 2 scrolls away. In the past decade, he had been comprehending the slashes on the mountains and the scrolls together, allowing him to make extremely great progress. He was only a tiny step away from the partial achievement of sword spirit now. At this moment, another group of people entered the space. There were a total of 3 people, 2 men and 1 woman. The woman only seemed to be in her 20s. She was beautiful, but she was dressed extremely provocatively. She only had a single ribbon across her chest, revealing most of her body. She wore an extremely short skirt as well, so only 3 parts of her body were covered. Her round, circular legs were completely exposed. At the same time, she did not contain the hedonistic light in her eyes at all. She was filled with a deep sense of perversion. The other 2 men followed beside the woman. They were both middle-aged. However, flashes of primitive desire would flash through their eyes from time to time when they looked at the woman. However, the 2 gods did not touch this woman who was only a deity. Unless they gained permission, they would not even touch a hair on her. The provocative woman looked around. A sliver of perversion appeared in her enchanting eyes. Suddenly, she charged towards an extremely handsome young man nearby who only seemed to be in his 20s. Chapter 1812, Partial Achievement of Sword Spirit, 4. The young man was only at reciprocity, so he was unable to resist before the female deity at all. The woman captured him effortlessly. Senior, what are you doing? The young man began to panic. The provocative woman pushed her face up close to the young man's face. She extended her tongue and licked his face gently. She gave off a fragrance that could incite the bestial instincts of desire, and she said softly, "Little brother, don't panic or be scared. I won't hurt you because you've already caught my eye. Let me properly show some love to you. I'll take you to a land of bliss." As she said that, the woman waved her hand and a divine hall immediately flew out. It rapidly expanded in the air and landed heavily on the ground. The woman grabbed the young man and directly entered the divine hall, ignoring his resistance. The people gathered in the space to comprehend the laws of the sword looked at the provocative woman at that moment as well. However, Their expressions became rather strange very soon. This was because the woman's divine hall was transparent. By transparent, it meant that everything that happened within the divine hall could be seen clearly from the outside. The perversion in the woman's eyes became even more intense within the divine hall. Under everyone's gazes, she stripped the young man naked first before ripping off everything on her body. She directly pressed the young man to the floor and sat down on him just like that, going at it publicly. "Senior, please don't, Senior. Spare me." The young man was not delighted at all. Instead, he began to beg miserably. However, his body was trapped and immobilized, so he could only watch the woman sit on him. He was unable to do anything. However, his complexion gradually paled while his skin gradually lost its luster. It yellowed as if his vitality was being drained away. On the other hand, the woman was ruddy. She was in high spirits as if she had just eaten something nourishing. So shameless. What a shameless person. There were also quite a few women in the space. Their faces all reddened slightly when they saw this repulsive sight, and they cursed. You're looking to die." The two middle-aged men who had come in with the provocative woman immediately became angered when they heard these statements. One of them called out coldly, and a huge axe appeared in his hand. He swung it towards a few women. The huge axe cleaved through the air and sent a demonic aura towards the women. The women had not even reached the level of gods, so they completely lacked the strength to fend off an attack from a god. They all paled in fright. "Great-grandfather." At this moment, one of the women called out. Nearby, the eyes of an old man who sat on a mountain peak snapped open. The moment he stood up, a sharp sword chi immediately began to radiate from him. He wielded a sword and directly sent a sword chi towards the axe. Boom! The demonic aura produced by the middle-aged man immediately dispersed while the sword chi dulled slightly as well. However, it did not disperse and instead continued towards the middle-aged man with lightning speed. A god who has comprehended the laws of the sword. The expression of the middle-aged man with the axe changed. He immediately swung out a second time and dispersed the sword chi. However, he could not help but take a small step back. At the same time, fear flooded his gaze towards the old man. At the same time, Jian Chen's eyes narrowed. He could not help but properly study the old man in interest. "My great-granddaughter is not someone you can hurt. Moreover, you're literally offending the public by letting something so repulsive happen before everyone. I'll teach you all a proper lesson today." The old man wielded his sword as he radiated with powerful sword chi. He strode through the air and rapidly moved towards the two middle-aged men. He gave off quite the presence. "We're from the Mo family. Sir, do you plan on going up against our Mo family?" The middle-aged man with the axe growled sternly. The old man had comprehended the laws of the sword, so he was extremely powerful. He and his companion probably would not be this old man's opponent even when working together. The old man halted when he heard that they were from the Mo family. His face changed slightly and he growled, "The Mo family? The Mo family from the divine kingdom of Qingyang?" The middle-aged men's faces could not help but brighten when they saw the old man respond like that. They could tell that he feared the Mo family. "That's right. We're elders of the Mo family from the divine kingdom of Qingyang," the middle-aged man with the axe said arrogantly. At the same time, he took out a token that displayed his identity. Fear immediately appeared in the old man's eyes when he saw the token that represented an elder of the Mo family. He snorted coldly and arrived before one of the young women and stood in front of her to protect her. Clearly, he was afraid of provoking the Mo family. "Great-grandfather, that woman is so shameless," the woman behind the old man said with resentment. "Enough. Don't mention this again. The Mo family is a clan with an overgod. They're not a clan that we can offend," the old man said to the woman secretly. His voice was filled with hopelessness. The people who originally planned on complaining as well all settled down after the middle-aged man revealed their identities. Fear appeared in their eyes as well. They clearly did not dare to provoke the Mo family from the divine kingdom of Qingyang. Jian Chun sighed gently at this sight. He stood up slowly and casually extended a finger towards the transparent divine hall. A tiny sword chi immediately shot out with that gesture, shattering the divine hall to pieces. The powerful shockwaves created forcefully separated the woman and young man as well. The woman could not help but become furious when someone got in the way of something she was enjoying very much. She immediately called out, Who is it? Are you sick of living? Woman, please have some dignity in the public. Don't do these offending things, Jianchen said emotionlessly as he stood on a mountain peak. There was repulsion in his eyes as well. How dare you? The woman did not put on any clothes and just stood up like that. Just as she pointed at Jianchen and was about to bellow out, she could not help but become stunned. She dazedly stared at Jianchen, who stood on the mountain peak with his arms crossed, and she became infatuated. What a handsome man. In particular, his otherworldly presence makes him seem so noble. I've played around with so many men before, but I've never seen a man with a presence like that. In the blink of an eye, all of the woman's anger vanished. She flew to Jianchen's side eagerly as she stared at Jianchen with deep desire. She said, Big brother, what's your name? Chapter 1813, Partial Achievement of Sword Spirit, 5, Jianchen frowned. He felt slightly helpless. At the same time, everyone's gazes gathered on Jianchen once again. It's him. It's the person who sat for 10 years without moving at all. What is his cultivation? Even after learning there from the Mo family of the divine kingdom of Qingyang, he still dares to interfere. He's clearly not as simple as he seems. However, he doesn't seem to dare offend the Mo family too much either. Otherwise, the woman would have been injured when he shattered the divine hall. I wonder what he'll do now that the shameless woman has laid her eyes on him. Many people wondered as they tried to work out Jianchen's strength and background. However, even more people wanted to see just how Jianchen would handle the situation today. This was because he was up against the Mo family from the divine kingdom of Qingyang, which was a clan with an overgod. The woman did not become angry at all when Jianchen remained silent. Affection filled her eyes and she said softly, Big brother, I've fallen in love with you at first sight, so why must you be so cold to me? Don't be so dense, let me properly show you some love. I swear that I won't hurt you at all, unlike that little brother from before. Big brother, I can teach you a dual cultivation method. We only have to try it once, and our strength will increase drastically. I can guarantee you that you'll become infatuated with it once you try it. The woman from the Mo family stood behind Jianchen and dazedly said to his back. She was filled with hope and desire. She was not telling any lies either because she had truly become deeply attracted by Jianchen's bearing. Piss off, or I'll show you what I can do, Jianchen said coldly as heavy killing intent clashed through his eyes. The woman was only a deity. She was as insignificant as an ant in Jianchen's eyes. He could not bring himself to killing something so insignificant, but her actions had incited his killing intent. The woman from the Mo family realized that Jianchen did not want to follow what she said when she sensed Jianchen's killing intent. Her face could not help but darken. She planted her hands on her hips and said coldly, I have good intentions yet you still turn me down. There hasn't been a single man that I've wanted who has managed to escape from me. You're mine for sure today. You'll become my sex slave. With that, the woman turned towards the two middle-aged men nearby and said, Elders, please capture this person. The elders hesitated slightly before directly flying towards Jianchen. Looks like the Mo family really doesn't have anyone good. Jianchen was emotionless. A tiny strand of sword chi suddenly flashed near his fingers, shooting towards the woman's forehead like it was nothing. The woman was unable to put up any resistance at all before an overgod. A bloody hole appeared in her forehead, and in the blink of an eye, her soul had been wiped out. She collapsed while retaining the same posture. The two elders who flew over became stunned when they saw the bloody hole. Their eyes widened as disbelief filled their faces. They were not the only ones. Everyone in the space there became flooded with disbelief as well. She was a person from the Mo family, and she seemed to possess quite some status, yet Jianchen had killed her without any hesitance at all. This left everyone deeply shocked. Why? You actually killed the second young lady. The two elders paled. They understood very well just what status the second young lady possessed in the Mo family. She was the person that the ancestor of the Mo family doted on, yet she had just died before the two of them like this. The ancestor would definitely become enraged. Jianchen looked at the two elders and said coldly, "People of the Mo family, if you want to live for a little longer, you better watch yourselves in the Dong'an province. Do you know who you just killed? The ancestor will never let you go." The two elders did not dare to charge towards Jianchen anymore. Instead, they yelled at him from afar. Both of them could tell that Jianchen definitely had his reasons for being able to kill a person of the Mo family so fearlessly. The ancestor of the Mo family just happens to have taken something from me. Go report to your ancestor that before long, Jianchen will be paying a personal visit, Jianchen said. Although he had described it as a visit, it did not sound like a visit at all from Jianchen's tone. What? Why you're Jianchen? Why you're the patriarch of the Tianyuan clan? The expressions of the two elders changed suddenly. They could not help but stagger backwards as shock filled their faces. At the same time, the expressions of all the cultivators gathered there changed drastically as well. Their eyes widened as they stared at Jianchen in complete disbelief. Their hearts churned. What? He's the patriarch of the Tianyuan clan. Heavens, is that what I heard? He's actually the patriarch of the Tianyuan clan, Jianchen. The patriarch of the Tianyuan clan is basically someone who controls the Dong'an province. I've actually had the honor of seeing him personally. At that moment, many of the gazes towards Jianchen became filled with curiosity. At the same time, there was admiration from the bottom of their hearts. But the elders did not dare to say anything more. They glanced at Jianchen in complete fear before turning around and fleeing desperately. They fled the dwelling as quickly as possible. They did not even bother about the woman's corpse. Jianchen did not stop them and allowed them to escape. Although the ancestor of the Mo family had taken an item of his, this was a matter between him and the ancestor. He found no meaning in dragging gods into their conflict. At this moment, Jianchen looked towards the old man who had stepped in earlier. He clasped his hands and said, "Sir, may I ask for your name?" The old man immediately became startled when he heard Jianchen ask for his name personally. He hurried to return the gesture and said, "I'm Qi Qian. I come from the Kaiyang province of the divine kingdom of Pingtian. Greetings to the patriarch. Qi Qian, I see that you have some accomplishments with the sword. I was wondering if you were interested in joining my Tianyuan clan. If you are willing, I will definitely assist you with everything I have so that you can become an overgod," said Jianchen as he tried to rope in Qi Qian. This was because he had a vague feeling that Qi Qian's accomplishments with the sword would be far more than this. Qi Qian was overjoyed. He said emotionally, "Really? If I join the Tianyuan clan, the patriarch will assist me in becoming an overgod?" Chapter 1814. Partial Achievement of Sword Spirit, 6. Naturally. Since I've made a promise to you, I will definitely follow through with everything I have so that you can become an overgod, given that your talent isn't too horrible, Jianchen guaranteed. Although his current laws of the sword were only at the level of mid-overgod, he was confident that making Qi Qian an overgod would not be too difficult. Qi Qian was only a mid-god right now. There would be some time before he reached peak god. By then, with Jianchen's rate of comprehension, he probably would have reached the major achievement of Sword Spirit, the great perfection of Sword Spirit, or maybe even Sword Immortal. Even if something happened, and he remained at the partial achievement of Sword Spirit when Qi Qian reached peak god, he was still confident it would not be too much of a problem for Qi Qian to become an overgod with his full assistance. I should be leaving this place very soon. But before I do leave, I must increase the strength of the Tianyuan clan some more. It's best if I can get an overgod to protect the clan personally. Only then can I guarantee the safety of the clan. However, I have to deal with the matter regarding the Weiner clan as well. If I can't settle it peacefully, it won't be my fault. Otherwise, they're a latent threat at all times, thought Jianchen. Part of why he wanted to rope in Qi Qian this time was because he had a certain feeling that Qi Qian's future accomplishments would definitely be quite impressive. Jian Chen was uncertain why he felt this, but he believed it without any hesitation at all. At the same time, there was something else important. He had already made up his mind about leaving the Tianyuan clan. He was a person of the immortals' world after all. He had to return there someday. He was not born in the immortals' world. As a matter of fact, he did not know anything about that world, but whether it was his cultivation method, his legacy, or the existence of the sword spirits, they all determined him to be a part of the immortals' world. As a result, he had to strengthen the Tianyuan clan before his departure. At the very least, he had to make it so that the Tianyuan clan could exist stably for a very long time in the divine kingdom of Pingtian. Not only did the existence of the clan protect the people who had come up from the Tianyuan continent with him, but it would have a direct connection to any other people who came up in the future. Although the tunnel to the Saints' world would drop a person to any of the 49 Great Planes or the 81 Great Planets in the Saints' world, Jian Chen believed that once he was powerful enough, he could change that. Alternatively, he could make it such that all the people who came up in the future from the Tianyuan continent could gather in the Tianyuan clan. Jian Chen's promise left Qi Qian overjoyed. Although he was already a god now, he had no confidence in breaking through to overgod. Across the 36 provinces of the Divine Kingdom, each provincial city possessed several dozen or even over 100 gods, but there were only a few that managed to become overgods. If he possessed the full assistance of the patriarch of the Tianyuan clan, he believed he would be able to become an overgod. However, Qi Qian showed some hesitance. He said to Jian Chen, "But Patriarch, I already possess a clan in the Kaiyang province. I belong to the Qi family." Jian Chen waved his hand without minding it at all and smiled. "That's not a problem. You're still a part of the Qi family once you join the Tianyuan clan. I am indebted to the Patriarch. From today onwards, I will join the Tianyuan clan," Qi Qian said politely. Many people would choose to join larger clans or sects for better cultivation methods or to break through to higher cultivation realms in the Saints' world. Qi Qian was only making a similar decision today. With my age and talent, the people from very powerful clans and sects may not necessarily want me. Even if I do make it in out of luck, I probably wouldn't receive much focus at all. I'll just end up running my course. Although the Tianyuan clan cannot be compared to those clans and sects, it's enough as long as the patriarch of the Tianyuan clan will assist me in becoming an overgod. At the same time, joining the Tianyuan clan benefits me in another way as well because I won't have to worry about the revenge from the Mo family. The Mo family of the Divine Kingdom of Qingyang are known for their vengeful behavior. They're also extremely unjust. I wonder if the two elders of the Mo family will remember what I said and did today, Qi Qian thought. Qi Han greets the patriarch. At the same time, the great-granddaughter behind Qi Qian came forward and bowed politely towards Jian Chen. Many people in the surroundings looked at Qi Qian with deep envy. After all, Qi Qian did not join the Tianyuan clan like any other person today. The patriarch had personally invited him and guaranteed to help him break through to overgod. After revealing his identity, Jian Chen's status in the space immediately became extremely special. Everyone no longer looked at him as casually and boldly as before. Instead, their gazes were filled with respect and reverence. This was because he was an overgod, as well as the person who held absolute power in the Dong'an province. Afterwards, Jian Chen gave Qi Qian an identification token that represented his position as an elder of the Tianyuan clan before continuing his comprehension. In the blink of an eye, Jian Chen had reached the end of his second decade. After spending 20 long years comprehending here, the sword qi that permeated the space there became abnormally powerful all of a sudden, making all the cultivators present feel like they had sunken into a sea of swords. It was like a layer of invisible sword qi surrounded them. The sword qi permeated every corner of the space, and it was to the point where the origin energy in the surroundings seemed to be infected, causing it to sharpen in that instance as well. Everyone stopped cultivating and used their powerful origin energy to protect themselves, isolating themselves from the invisible sword qi the best they could. Fortunately, The sword chi there had appeared naturally and did not target them, so they did not become injured once they resisted with their full strength. There was only one person who was an exception, and that was Jianchen. He had become covered in dust again. Jianchen remained seated where he was like a statue and did not move at all. However, very soon, the dust on Jianchen dispersed by itself. Gradually, a sharp and powerful sword chi began to shine from Jianchen, growing in brightness and power. In the end, it formed a huge sword chi that plunged into the sky. From a distance, it seemed like a huge pillar that shone with an extremely bright light, rooted in the ground and reaching towards the sky. Chapter 1815. Miraculous Liquid. It's the patriarch of the Tian Yuan clan. He's the patriarch of the Tian Yuan clan. What's happening? Why is the patriarch of the Tian Yuan clan suddenly emitting such powerful sword chi? Has he broken through? The patriarch of the Tian Yuan clan was already very powerful. I heard that the overgod of the Wainer clan was not his opponent at all and was kept at bay throughout the entire battle. Now that the patriarch of the Tian Yuan clan has broken through, just how powerful will he become? Will he be a mid-overgod? Or a late overgod? I heard that every breakthrough for an overgod requires an extremely lengthy period of cultivation, but the patriarch of the Tian Yuan clan has only remained here for 2 decades, and he has broken through again. This talent is just too terrifying. The patriarch of the Tian Yuan clan was already a peak expert within the divine kingdom of Pingtian. Even among all the overgods, there aren't many people who are his opponent because he has comprehended the laws of the sword. Many cultivators stood in the distance as they cried out while staring at Jianchen. Qi Qian did not leave during this period. When he saw Jianchen make another breakthrough, he felt joy from the bottom of his heart. He was a part of the Tian Yuan clan now, so the more powerful the patriarch became, the more immovable the Tian Yuan clan status would become. His chances at becoming an overgod would increase as well. The sword chi radiated from Jianchen for an entire day before slowly dispersing in the end. Very soon, the surroundings settled down once more. With the disappearance of the powerful sword chi, all the cultivators gathered their protective barriers and stared at Jianchen in reverence. At this moment, Jianchen slowly opened his eyes as he sat on the mountain. The moment his eyes opened, a streak of light seemed to shoot out, directly striking a mountain several thousand meters away, producing a heavy boom. If it were not for the fact that all the mountains around the area had become extremely tough due to the existence of God King Duanmu's sword slashes, the mountain probably would have been penetrated by Jianchen's gaze. I've finally reached the partial achievement of sword spirit successfully. The corner of Jianchen's mouth curled up into a smile. After 20 years of cultivation and comprehension, his laws of the sword had broken through once more in God King Duanmu's dwelling. When I reached the minor achievement of sword spirit, my laws of the sword were only equivalent to early overgod. Afterwards, I comprehended some more on the 2nd floor of the sword comprehension building, allowing me to make some more progress. After a few years, it culminated to the peak of minor achievement, which was equivalent to mid-overgod. Now that my laws of the sword have reached the partial achievement of sword spirit, it's equivalent to the comprehension of a late overgod, Jianchen thought. He immediately determined his current strength. His comprehension of laws had now reached the levels of late overgods. The only thing he lacked was the same as before, and that was personal cultivation. His chaotic body remained at the 10th layer, which was equivalent to a god. Only when his chaotic body reached the 11th layer would his cultivation reach overgod. Cultivation realms depended on the comprehension of laws, while cultivation depended on the energy within the Dantian. My chaotic Niden is only missing a third of the energy it needs before it can reach the 11th layer. I have to find the cultivation resources for this third as soon as possible. Jianchen made up his mind inside before leaving without any reluctance at all. After reaching the partial achievement of sword spirit, this place no longer held much significance for Jianchen. This was because this was only the place where God King Duanmu practiced the sword, and not where God King Duanmu decided to pass on his laws. Jianchen had already completely understood and absorbed the comprehension that would be beneficial to him. Remaining any longer would not allow him to improve. However, Jianchen did not know that after he left, the place where he cultivated basically became a treasured and desired area. Everyone wanted to have it for themselves, as if they believed that the effects of comprehending the laws of the sword would be greatly increased as long as they practiced there. At the same time, as people from many divine kingdoms were gathered in the dwelling, the news of the patriarch of the Tianyuan clan's breakthrough was brought back to their clans as quickly as possible. In a tall tower within the Mo family of the divine kingdom of Qingyang, the ancestor of the family sat in a space. Currently, he was wearing black robes. He held an extremely damaged piece of armor in his hand as he studied it. He appeared to be hesitating. This god artifact is far too damaged. With my strength, even if I find the corresponding materials, I won't be able to repair it. If I can't repair it, this armor will only be an extremely rare but useless item for collection. I can sell it to those large sects or clans and benefit greatly, but it's a god artifact after all. Even if it's damaged, it's rather regretful for me to just sell it like that. That's because the things that those clans and sects will offer to me probably won't be enough for my strength to increase. No matter how many divine crystals and heavenly resources I possess, my strength won't increase at all as long as I can't make a breakthrough in my comprehension of laws. However, if I can repair the armor, my strength will directly increase, thought the ancestor as he hesitated. Jianchen killed my beloved descendant, taking much delight from me. That's unforgivable. Although I've reached the peak of mid-over-god, I still don't have much confidence in stopping Jianchen's 2 strands of sword qi. I must find a way to block the 2 strands of sword qi if I want to kill Jianchen. But I can only stop the sword qi if I reach late overgod or get many overgods to work with me. It's very difficult for me to make a breakthrough in my cultivation while finding other overgods to fend off Jianchen with me is extremely difficult as well. After all, basically everyone has learnt about Jianchen's strength and power from what happened in God King Duanmu's dwelling. It'll be difficult to invite them to help me against Jianchen. Even if I can invite them, I'm unwilling to pay the price. The ancestor of the Mo family looked at the damaged armor in his hands again and murmured, "Looks like I can only use this god artifact given the current situation. The armor is a god artifact after all. I don't have to repair it completely. Just fixing it by 10 or 20% will be more than enough to stop Jianchen's sword qi. It's just that the liquid is just too precious. Do I really have to use it like this?" The ancestor of the Mo family could not help but think about the few droplets of liquid he had come across out of luck. He had found them in outer space. When they floated quietly in space, they gave off a strange pulse. The ancestor of the Mo family did not know what the liquid was, but he did know that it was extraordinary. As a result, he collected it in delight. Afterwards, he experimented with it for countless years and finally discovered their unique property, and that was to repair. He did not know how powerful the liquid was and whether it could repair god artifacts or not. He only knew that the damaged supreme quality saint artifact he had found in the past was completely repaired with a single droplet. The only flaw was that it descended to high quality after being repaired. Chapter 1816. Repairing the armor. The ancestor of the Mo family hesitated as he stared at the damaged armor. Uncertainty flickered through his eyes as he became extremely hesitant. With a thought, a simple jade bottle appeared in his hand silently. He stared at the jade bottle and remained quiet for a very long time. This was because the bottle contained the droplets of miraculous liquid he had accidentally come across and obtained in outer space. The liquid is extremely precious. That's without a doubt. But do I use it on the god artifact or not? Can the liquid repair the armor? If it can't, wouldn't that just be wasting the treasured liquid? The ancestor of the Mo family was extremely conflicted as he held the damaged armor in one hand and the bottle of liquid in the other. Moreover, there's something else important to consider. Wealth leads to ruin from others' greed. A god artifact is immensely precious, and even many infinite primes don't possess something like that. I definitely won't be able to keep the god artifact after news makes it out with my mere strength. I might even end up dooming myself. Of course, Primordial realm experts will not notice it if I keep the god artifact in its current shape. If I repair it, there'll be more than a single primordial realm expert who will come looking for me, but if I don't repair it, how do I kill Jian Chen and take revenge for my dear descendant? The ancestor could not help but become enraged when he thought about how the patriarch of the Tianyuan clan had claimed the life of his beloved descendant. Killing intent surged within him. Of course, the message the two elders brought back was the most important. It made the ancestor panic. They had relayed the message that the patriarch of the Tianyuan clan, Jian Chen, would come personally to take back the armor before long. In the long run, I can't repair the god artifact right now because I won't be able to keep it with my current strength. At the same time, I heard that you have to reach the primordial realm to use the power of a god artifact. My current strength is nowhere close to that. The burning desire in the ancestor's eyes gradually vanished, and he calmed down. He gave up on repairing the god artifact with the miraculous liquid. This one greets the ancestor. I have important matters to report. A voice filled with reverence rang out from outside at this moment. Speak, said the ancestor of the Mo family. Ancestor, I've just received the news that the patriarch of the Tianyuan clan from the Dong'an province has broken through recently in God King Duanmu's dwelling. The person outside replied courteously. The ancestor of the Mo family felt like a bolt had struck him from the blue when he heard that. His body shook violently, and his face sunk in that instance. Is that true? He has broken through? The ancestor growled. This was the worst piece of news he could hear. Ancestor, I've checked over many sources, and there have been no contradictions. The patriarch of the Tianyuan clan has indeed broken through in God King Duanmu's dwelling. However, his current level of cultivation is unknown, the person outside replied courteously. The ancestor of the Mo family fell silent, and his face darkened. After quite a while, he waved his hand and said, I understand. You can go. Descendant will be dismissing myself then. The ancestor of the Mo family sat in the room. His sunken face quickly turned stern. If Jian Chen had not broken through, the ancestor would only treat him as a powerful opponent and a great trouble for the future. Although he did pose some threat, the threat was not fatal. This was because in his eyes, there was nothing that he feared about Jian Chen apart from his profound sword qi. He did not worry about Jian Chen's cultivation level at all. This was because he had already reached the peak of mid-overgod, while Jian Chen was only at early overgod. Even if he comprehended the laws of the sword, Jian Chen would not be his opponent. If Jian Chen did not possess the deterrent of the two strands of sword qi, the ancestor would have directly made his way towards Jian Chen after the former killed his beloved descendant. However, he learnt that Jian Chen had broken through. If he really did break through, would that not mean that Jian Chen's cultivation level was the same as his own now? If Jian Chen had really reached the same cultivation level as him, he knew he would not be Jian Chen's opponent with Jian Chen's battle prowess from the laws of the sword and the two strands of terrifying profound sword qi. Since Jian Chen has broken through, he'll come looking for me in the divine kingdom of Qinyan before long. I can't give this god artifact back to him. Not only that, but I have to kill him to take revenge for my beloved descendant. The ancestor of the Mo family growled as cold, killing intent appeared in his eyes. Looks like I'll have to do it. The armor is my greatest trump card for killing Jian Chen. The ancestor of the Mo family made up his mind. Immediately, without any hesitation, he unscrewed the bottle and directly poured a droplet of the mysterious liquid onto the damaged armor. The liquid was transparent, but the moment it appeared, there was an indescribably mysterious presence. When it came in contact with the damaged armor, it immediately fused into it. The ancestor of the Mo family stared at the armor nervously. In reality, he had no idea whether the miraculous liquid could repair god artifacts. Suddenly, the god artifact began to shine with a dense light under the ancestor's close watch. It enveloped the entire god artifact in a single instance. Through the dense light, the ancestor of the Mo family could clearly see that the damaged armor was being repaired at an extremely gradual rate. Even though the rate of repair was slower than a snail, there was no doubt that the armor was slowly being repaired. It actually can be repaired. It actually can. Fantastic, fantastic. This is utterly fantastic. With the protection of the God artifact, how will Jianqin injure me as a mere overgod? Even if I can't use the power of the God artifact with my current level of cultivation, the God artifact won't be something an overgod can smash through. The ancestor of the Mo family was extremely overjoyed. His face had become flushed. He could swear that he had never been so excited since he began cultivating. For hours later, the dense light around the armor gradually vanished, revealing the armor again. The armor was still damaged, but compared to before, there were extremely evident changes. Some places had been repaired already, and it seemed like it had started to return to its previous state. A God artifact really is a God artifact after all. A single drop of the liquid can only repair so much. Looks like I'll have to use up all of it to fully repair the God artifact, murmured the ancestor of the Mo family. Making up his mind, he poured all the liquid onto the God artifact in a single stroke. Chapter 1817. The sword-seeking province. The ancestor of the Mo family did not have much of the miraculous liquid. When he discovered it in outer space, he had only found 6 droplets in total. He used a droplet to study its effects, wasting it on a damaged Supreme Quality Saint artifact. As a result, he only had 5 droplets left. Even though the ancestor of the Mo family had no idea what the liquid was, nor did he find any rumors about such a liquid, he understood exactly just how valuable it was if a single droplet could repair a damaged Supreme Quality Saint artifact. Originally, the ancestor of the Mo family did not want to use the liquid to repair the God artifact today. He knew that if the God artifact remained as damaged as it was right now, he would be able to keep it. However, he would struggle to keep it once it was repaired. As a matter of fact, countless experts would be drawn over if he leaked the news that he possessed an undamaged God artifact. These experts would not be God Kings, but ones that had surpassed God King and reached the primordial realm. But now that Jianqin had broken through, he no longer had a choice. All he could do was repair the armor. Only with the armor would he feel confident about killing the patriarch of the Tianyuan clan. As all the remaining liquid was poured onto the armor, an even denser layer of light immediately rose up. The damaged portion was being repaired at an even quicker pace than before. The ancestor of the Mo family's eyes were filled with nervousness, eagerness, and joy as he stared at the piece of armor. Even though he had no idea whether he would be able to keep it forever, it was still something joyful if he could personally witness a God artifact being restored to its original form. The dense light over the armor lasted for several hours before gradually vanishing. Once the light had completely disappeared, the armor's original appearance was finally revealed. The ancestor of the Mo family could not help but become excited when he saw that the armor had been repaired. He murmured, "It has actually been completely repaired." "Completely repaired, I say. That's fantastic. The liquid is miraculous. It can even repair God artifacts. I don't have the ability to refine the God artifact right now. I can't even use the power of the God artifact, but as long as I wear it, I should be able to endure attacks from overgods from the armor's defense alone. Even late overgods won't be my opponent." When he thought up to there, the ancestor of the Mo family was filled with excitement. However, he also understood that he had to keep his possession of the God artifact a complete secret. He could not bring it out unless he was facing danger. Patriarch of the Tianyuan clan, so what if you have those 2 strands of terrifying sword chi? I have no need to fear you at all now. The ancestor's confidence swelled. At that moment he was even tempted to directly advance to the divine kingdom of Pingtian to kill Jianqin personally. After all, he had taken the God artifact from Jianqin. He feared that Jianqin would leak news about it. Jianqin's strength should be similar to mine, and he comprehends the laws of the sword. I can't be defeated with the God artifact, but killing him won't be easy. If he wants to escape, I probably won't be able to stop him. I can't go to the divine kingdom of Pingtian right now. Whatever. Jianqin probably won't leak the news of the God artifact either since he doesn't know that I've repaired it. I'll just cast down the most powerful formation I can get my hands on here and wait for Jianqin to come patiently. The sword-seeking province was one of the 36 provinces of the divine kingdom of Pingtian, and it was also known to be the most powerful province. This was because the person who held absolute power in the province, Ling Hogong, was not only an overgod who had comprehended the laws of the sword, but also a founder of the divine kingdom. At the same time, the sword-seeking province possessed the only tax-free provincial city in the kingdom. All the income went to the Ling family that Ling Hogong came from. Just this was a great glory for the Ling family. There was an extremely large and grand manor in the center of the provincial city. The manor was where the greatest clan of the province, the Ling family, stood. A white-robed young man walked towards the entrance of the Ling family slowly. "Stop. This is the estate of the Ling family. Do not loiter around." Before the young man could even approach the entrance of the Ling family, the guards stopped him at the entrance. The young man did not stop. Under the glares of the guards, he made his way to the entrance at ease. He said to the guards in an approachable manner, "Please pass on the message that Jian Qin of the Tian Yuan clan has come to visit. The patriarch has ordered that all uninvited guests must be turned down." The guard glared at Jian Qin as he said without minding too much. However, before the guard had finished speaking, he came to a sudden halt. A great change occurred in his eyes at that moment as he stared at Jian Qin in disbelief. He said in surprise, "Wait, what did you just say? The Tian Yuan clan? Which Tian Yuan clan? Is it the Tian Yuan clan from the Dong'an province?" Jian Qin smiled. "Correct. The Tian Yuan clan from the Dong'an province." The expressions of the guards immediately changed when they heard that he was from the Tian Yuan clan of the Dong'an province. They stopped glaring at Jian Qin, and their eyes became filled with reverence. "Esteemed guest, please wait. I will contact the patriarch immediately." A guard ran off in a hurry. The patriarch of the Ling family, Ling Maojian, was currently holding a clan meeting in the discussion hall of the clan. He sat on the patriarch's throne. He was stern and gave off a dignified bearing. Below him were the several dozen members of the upper echelon of the clan. At this moment, a guard rushed into the hall regardless of the rules. He said politely, "Patriarch, there's someone outside who claims to be Jian Qin from the Tian Yuan clan. He says he has come to visit our Ling family." "What? The Tian Yuan clan? Is it the Tian Yuan clan from the Dong'an province?" The patriarch of the Ling family was just about to scold and punish the guard for not following rules. However, when he suddenly heard the reported news, his face immediately changed, and he became extremely stern. Chapter 1818. Visiting the Ling family in respect to anything extremely shocking that had occurred in the divine kingdom of Pingtian lately, there was only the birth of the Tian Yuan clan apart from the appearance of God King Duanmu's dwelling. Almost no one knew of the origins of the mysterious Jian Qin. He fought the second overgod of the Dong'an province, Weiner Yen, 100 kilometers outside the provincial city after founding the Tian Yuan clan in the Dong'an province. Although the patriarch of the Tian Yuan clan had comprehended the laws of the sword, one of the laws known to have the greatest offensive power, Weiner Yen of the Weiner clan was not weak either. He had comprehended the laws of strength, which was also known as one of the laws with the greatest defensive power. The two of them were roughly at the same level in terms of comprehension, yet the result of the battle took those who paid attention by storm. Weiner Yen had actually suffered a miserable defeat. The patriarch of the Tian Yuan clan had crushed Weiner Yen completely, emerging with no injuries at all. Not only did the results of the battle shake up the entire Dong'an province, but it also caused an uproar in the entire divine kingdom and the neighboring divine kingdoms for some time. Jian Qin had displayed his strength to the world through his battle against Weiner Yen. At the same time, many people witnessed his strength clearly. As a matter of fact, countless people labeled Jian Qin as the greatest among the 6 great provinces of the divine kingdom. They meant the strongest in the 36 provinces when they said greatest. The patriarch and the members of the upper echelon from the Ling family immediately became stunned when they heard that a person of the Tian Yuan clan had come to visit. Clearly, they were extremely taken aback. At this moment, the patriarch of the Ling family seemed to think of something. His face suddenly changed and he stared at the guard sharply. He asked urgently, "What did you say? Who came to visit?" The guard did not tarry at all. He immediately repeated himself. "Patriarch, the person said he was Jian Chen of the Tian Yuan clan." Jian Chen, is he? The guard seemed to understand as well when he reached the end of those words. His face changed drastically. At the same time, panic and disbelief flooded his face. At this moment, he could not help but think about how he had glared at the visitor. "Jian Chen? Isn't he the patriarch of the Tian Yuan clan? Are you sure you've heard correctly? The patriarch of the Tian Yuan clan has actually come to visit our Ling family by himself. Are you sure that's correct? We all know how great the patriarch of the Tian Yuan clan is. Moreover, our Ling family has no ties with his Tian Yuan clan, so why has he come to our Ling family? In particular, why has he come personally?" At this moment, the discussion hall was thrown into an uproar. All the members of the upper echelon were excited and taken aback. At the same time, they felt disbelief. Who would ever dare to use the name of the patriarch of the Tian Yuan clan falsely? Quick, let's go to receive him together. At the same time, contact all the elders of the clan. Since the ancestor is not here, we all must welcome his arrival with the greatest ceremony since the patriarch has come personally regardless of his status. Ling Majin stood up and called out to everyone. At the same time, he contacted all the elders in the clan secretly. At that moment, the patriarch contacted all the elders in the clan, regardless of whether they were in seclusion or not. With that, only a few seconds had passed in total. The elders of the clan were extremely fast. Even the elders who were in seclusion several kilometers away emerged in a split second after the patriarch's message. They quickly arrived before the patriarch. Very soon, all the important people of the clan and the elders arrived at the main entrance of the Ling family. They had arrived as quickly as they could. From afar, the patriarch of the Ling family saw Jian Chen waiting at the entrance. His eyes immediately narrowed, and he could not help but reveal reverence on his face. Although Ling Majian had never seen Jian Chen in person, he was still the patriarch of a clan with an overgod. He had managed to get his hands on an image of Jian Chen through various means, and he discovered that the person visiting was exactly the same. The patriarch of the Ling family, Ling Majian, greets the patriarch of the Tian Yuan clan. The patriarch's visit is an honor for our Ling family. Please forgive me if I have been slow earlier. Ling Majian bowed deeply towards Jian Chen and said politely. After all, the person standing before him was an overgod. An extremely powerful overgod in fact. Greetings to the patriarch of the Tian Yuan clan. The people of the Ling family all bowed towards Jian Chen deeply from behind the patriarch as well. Reverence filled all their faces. There were even a few of them who seemed unsettled. Jian Chen smiled indifferently. He did not act snobbishly. After greeting the people of the Ling family as well, he was invited to the discussion hall. The patriarch of the Ling family no longer sat on the patriarch's throne. Instead, he sat with Jian Chen and the elders and important figures of the Ling family. They served the best fruit and tea to receive Jian Chen. Jian Chen conversed with the people of the Ling family casually, but among everyone, only Jian Chen remained composed. Including the patriarch, everyone behaved extremely carefully when they interacted with Jian Chen, as they were afraid that they would offend the overgod. The members of the upper echelon and the elders all tried to get on Jian Chen's good side as well. Patriarch Ling, may I ask if there is any news regarding Ling Hogong? Jian Chen gathered his focus at this moment and began to ask about Ling Hogong. This was the main reason why he had come to the Ling family. Jian Chen admired Ling Hogong quite a bit. After they separated in God King Duanmu's dwelling, he had not seen him again, so he felt slightly worried for him. Ling Majian's face darkened when this matter was mentioned. He sighed gently. The ancestor hasn't returned ever since he left for God King Duanmu's dwelling. At the same time, he hasn't passed on any news, so even we have no idea about the ancestor. I only heard that the ancestor offended an extremely great organization for a sword in God King Duanmu's dwelling. Sigh. Ling Majian's face was filled with worry. When he learnt just how powerful the organization his ancestor had offended was, his face had paled on the spot. Chapter 1819, Movements of the Demon Cult, 1. I just hope that the organization won't pay attention to such a small matter. Otherwise, the Ling family would be in great trouble if they really did look into it, Ling Majian said sternly. Jian Chen sat there silently. He probably understood just how powerful the Empyrean demon cult was more than any other overgod in the divine kingdom of Pingtian. Even the peak organizations of the Cloud Plane would not dare to offend the Empyrean demon cult so easily. Ling Hogong really had taken quite a large risk for the sword. I hope that Ling Hogong can power up as quickly as possible after receiving God King Duanmu's legacy. Fortunately, he only offended the vice leader of the branch on the Cloud Plane and not the entire organization, Jian Chen thought. He did not want to see Ling Hogong dying at the hands of the Empyrean demon cult. In that past years, many unknown people have appeared in our sword-seeking province. Even though they are mainly deities, with a few at the origin realm, we've discovered under close surveillance that they've basically all come for our Ling family. We know this because they've all chosen ins that are closest to our clan. They seem to be keeping an eye on all our movements, the patriarch of the Ling family said extremely sternly. His voice contained much helplessness. He clearly knew that these people had come to keep an eye on the Ling family, yet the clan simply did not dare to move so casually. This was because their ancestor was not present, and without their ancestor, everything they wanted to do became difficult in such a sensitive period of time. This was because they deeply feared that they would end up in big trouble if they captured a person to question, and they turned out to be from a large organization. Not only would it fail to assist the Ling family, but it would bring in a storm instead. Unknown people? Jian Chen's eyes narrowed when he heard that. He thought, is it the Empyrean demon cult? Or are they from other clans with overgods? However, Jian Chen was also helpless about the situation the Ling family was currently facing. Although he admired Ling Hogong and wanted to help him, he sadly lacked the power to do so. Jian Chen did not remain in the Ling family for too long. After half a day, he stood up and bid farewell. Before he left, he gave a jade talisman to the patriarch of the Ling family and said nonchalantly, "A sliver of the power of my soul is contained within the jade talisman. If Ling Hogong returns or your Ling family encounters anything and needs my help, you can crush the talisman, and I will hurry over as quickly as possible." Jian Chen's actions stunned Ling Majian and the other people from the clan. They could not help but wonder what connection the patriarch of the Tianyuan clan had with their ancestor, as he had come to the Ling family for the first time and offered so much assistance. He even left behind a method to contact him before leaving. Even though he had his suspicions, Ling Majian still behaved as if he was overjoyed. He accepted Jian Chen's talisman in a hurry and held it like treasure. He constantly thanked Jian Chen. Jian Chen departed from the sword-seeking province. After gaining his bearings, he directly headed off to the royal capital. Back in God King Duanmu's dwelling, he and Ling Hogong did not know each other at all, yet the latter dared to draw his sword against another overgod just for him. Jian Chen remembered this deeply. His short interaction with Ling Hogong afterwards had made him admire Ling Hogong's morales as well. How could he not help Ling Hogong now that he faced some trouble? Unfortunately, he was just too weak right now. He was up against the tremendous Empyrean demon cult, and he was completely helpless against them. Otherwise, he would not mind helping Ling Hogong solve his issues by personally taking vice leader Huai An's life. The great elder of the Empyrean demon cult was indeed very terrifying. As a matter of fact, he had reached a point where his might shocked Jian Chen. However, the Empyrean demon cult possessed so many branches and each branch possessed several vice leaders. As a result, there were several dozen vice leaders. It was also because of this that taking the life of a single vice leader would not be enough for the great elder to appear personally. Ling Hogong, this is all the help I can provide to you right now. I hope you take good care of yourself and power up soon, thought Jian Chen. However, what Jian Chen did not know was that as he left the sword-seeking province, the patriarch of the Ling family immediately entered a secret room layered with formations. The joy and excitement on his face had completely vanished. He stared at Jian Chen's talisman with uncertainty. A while later, he took out a jade box and placed Jian Chen's talisman inside the box carefully. At the same time, he cast layers of formations over the box and placed it in the center of the room gently. Then he left the room quietly without taking the box with him. Before long, Ling Majin arrived in a room that was even more secretive than the one before. He looked around carefully and only entered the room secretly after he confirmed there was nothing wrong. The moment he entered the room, powerful formations immediately covered the room. The formations were so powerful that they could even keep overgods busy for a while. Most importantly, the formations could cut off abilities such as the senses of the soul. Ling Majin was the only person in the gloomy room now. There was no one else inside. Ling Majin arrived at the center of the room and formed seals with both hands. He used a secret technique, and a complicated and profound formation gradually appeared on the ground. Majin, has anything important happened in the clan for you to call me using this secret technique? At this moment, an ancient but lively voice rang out from the formation. An old man in white robes appeared in the formation. The old man was ruddy and sage-like. His eyes shone brightly, and his gaze was sharp like swords. Even though he seemed to be past his 80s, his posture was perfectly straight, just like a drawn sword. He radiated with a powerful sword intent. To no surprise, the old man was Ling Hogong, who had gone missing for quite some time. Ancestor, the patriarch of the Tianyuan clan, Jian Chen, had just come to visit earlier. The patriarch told Ling Hogong everything that had happened during Jian Chen's visit. Ancestor, when the patriarch of the Tianyuan clan left, he even gave me a jade talisman with a sliver of the power of his soul. He said that if you returned, or if the Ling family encountered any problems, I should crush the talisman. I was wondering if he was reliable and could be trusted? Ling Majin said carefully. I never thought that Brother Jian Chen would have already founded a Tianyuan clan in the Dong'an province. It's just a pity that I can't move about freely, or I would definitely congratulate him personally, Ling Hogong sighed emotionally. It had already been several decades since he communicated with the clan. He had always remained in a secret place to cultivate and did not come in contact with the outside world. As a result, he only learnt about Jian Chen founding a clan now. Although I've only met Brother Jian Chen recently, although there are deception and trickery everywhere in the saints' world, I personally believe that Brother Jian Chen is a good person. He's definitely a trustworthy person. Although Brother Jian Chen said he would help you, you must act accordingly. If the Ling family comes across any problems that even I cannot deal with, do not contact Brother Jian Chen. Don't cause him any problems, understood? Ling Hogong said. You're tuning in to the Passion Pages YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support, and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.